I'm Brienne of Tarth. I was Kingsguard to Renly Baratheon. I was there when he was murdered by a shadow with your face. You murdered him? With blood magic?
I did.
In the name of Renly of House Baratheon, first of his name, rightful king of the Andals and the First Men, lord of the Seven Kingdoms and protector of the realm, I, Brienne of Tarth, sentence you to die. Do you have any last words?
Go and do your duty.
We are the sword in the darkness. We are the shield that guards the realms of men. We are Game of Microphones.
Good morrow, revenge-seeking Rainbow Guard and shame-walking queens, and welcome to Game of Microphones. I'm Lord Sterling, Ser Duncan, the Dapper.
And I'm Lady Rachel of House Fox, Septa of Soup Making.
And joining us today is our good friend Archmaester Stitches from the Luminescent Citadel on the Siren Isle. Welcome back to Game of Microphones, brother.
Dripping as bloody as usual.
Oh my god. It's Johnny Stitches. He's here.
Man, I'm so happy to be back, guys. It's been too long.
Totally.
It has. Welcome back.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Johnny is the overlord of the serialized horror drama podcast Sirenicide,
yes,
featuring me as Malik Husto,
good one.
mayor of Mooreston, Texas. Johnny, why don't you tell us what's going on with Sirenicide these days?
Right now, it's in its off season, and we're releasing mini episodes every other Tuesday, which are like 4 to 5 minute episodes. So if you haven't listened, right now is a good time to just jump in and sample a few of those little mini episodes. They don't really spoil any of the overarching story from seasons 1, 2, and 3. Kind of give you little samples, and if you like what you hear, then you can go back and start binging from the beginning.
Sick.
We have not George Lucased up our production, so if you start at season 1, episode 1, you're going to listen to a production literally evolve from us trying to figure out what the hell we're doing, what we're writing, and how to voice act, all the way to where we are now. So it's definitely really cool to listen to the show grow and catch the storylines. There's also a group on Facebook called the Scarred Ones group. And if you join that group, start listening. And of course, it's all free. You can go in there and ask questions. And literally every member of the creative team gets an alert on their mobile device when someone messages in there. That way, somebody can help answer if like, hey, what's up with this guy? Why did they meet such and such? Or how did this lady pass away? And, just mark your question spoiler and we'll be happy to answer it and, work with you. And not to mention, we have a really, really badass mayor of Mooreston, Texas. His name is Malik Husto, and he's got a very, very, very badass season coming up for season 4. So
nice.
Malik Husto.
You might recognize his voice.
Evil has reigned for far too long in Mooreston, Texas, and I'm going to do something about it. Where can our listeners find Sirenicide, Johnny?
Check it out at sirenicide.com or facebook.com/Sirenicide or any of your favorite podcast platforms. Just enter Sirenicide, Sirenicide.
Perfect. And thanks for coming back on Game of Microphones. This is episode 92, which holds a special place in my heart because 92 was my hockey number.
Nice.
That's awesome.
On this episode of our series Rewatch, we're covering the season finale of Game of Thrones, Season 5, Episode 10, Mother's Mercy.
Shame.
And in case you're not already aware, this series Rewatch is from the perspective of someone who's current on the show. That means you've seen up through Season 7. If not, there's still time to be stabbed to death by your sworn brothers after being tricked into thinking something wonderful has happened, so you don't have to hear these spoilers.
Warning.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. For the watch.
Spoiler alert!
Oh, man. I love this episode.
I love it too.
So much
But
happens.
I love it every episode.
I know. Yeah, we're such cheerleaders for the show, honestly.
Right?
Show strokers. Show strokers.
Show strokers. There you go.
Oh, man.
Tight
Me
grip.
too.
What do you think, Johnny?
Actually, I have, I guess, played this episode a lot more fondly in my mind than when I did the rewatch. I think I might have said last time I was on, because I was right in the middle of it, or I just started it or just ended it. I can't remember. I think it's like back in November, but we watched all of them. And
So
I think
sick.
because I had never binged it before, that was my first time ever binging.
What?
Yeah, because I watched them, other than the first season, I watched them all live.
Oh, wow.
So that was a really cool experience, and I really enjoyed it. But then when I was like, oh, I'm going to go on a Game of Microphones, and I want to do the season finale of season 10, and episode 10 of season 5, and I, for some reason, thought this was the same episode that Dany got rescued from the pit, and then towards the end of the episode, the Khalasar surrounds her, and when I was like, oh wow, this is two different episodes, and I was like, well, that kind of sucks. Oh well, it starts off with Stannis and stuff. This is cool, and as I was floating my way through it, I was like, I don't know, man, this just doesn't feel like as epic of a finale as I remember. I'm like, what the hell? I like we're going to go into deep on a lot of it, but it was more or less, I think what it really was just that, and I think I remember last time you were telling me, Duncan, I think the Mountain and the Viper one, that was like your first live episode, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. Good memory.
So you got to sit through this as well as the rest of the world that didn't start binging after season 5. That Jon Snow thing, man, like them putting that shit in Times Square on these big ass like digital billboards and stuff of him just bleeding in the snow and
No way.
all like just teasing like the world. I mean, that was a long ass off season.
Oh,
in fact,
yeah.
on my notes, I think I put fuck this off season, worst ever.
Yeah, Joe Harrington was like telling people that he was off the show and everything.
Yeah, dude, it was like the
Psych
Glenn
warfare.
and the dumpster thing on Walking Dead times 20.
Yeah, totally. That's hilarious.
It was it really messed with me too, was the fact that, I mean, I don't think we do any book spoilers, but basically there was no you could not find refuge in the books.
Yeah,
there was no
exactly.
solace there for book
No
readers.
solace. I mean, I had researched a lot of speculation and theorizing by this time, and people were like 100% confident that Jon was going to be revived. So if I hadn't known that or suspected it, the loss of Jon Snow would have been too great a loss to bear. I think it would have been too much.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was I guess that in a whole, I'm trying not to, I can't judge an episode by like what you had to go through the months after. So I try to pull that out. So I have to say, out of season finales, which for me up until this point, and the season finales that are to come for 6 and 7, I would probably say this is my least favorite of the season finales.
Interesting.
Sadly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
But that being said, it's like this is like the 9.5 out of like the perfect 10s.
Yeah, totally.
Still really good.
Oh yeah, super solid episode. When it came out, I remember that for some reason I couldn't watch it live, so I had to wait till the next day. And one of my friends at work came up to me and said, "For the watch," and I was like, "No, you fucking spoiled it for me."
Did he like make a gesture at your chest like with an imaginary knife when he said it?
Probably. But I had read the books, so I knew the line, and just him saying that like told me exactly what was going to happen in the episode. You know, I was like, damn, he's still my friend though.
That's good.
Rachel, you want to start off with your number 3?
Sure. My
Awesome.
number 3 is Cersei's walk of shame.
Ooh,
Shame.
shame.
So I just loved this when it started, as when I was a first time viewer. I was like, yes, she's going to get what she deserves. She has to walk naked through the streets. And then by the end of her walk, I felt kind of bad for her.
Yeah. Here.
Like, she wants to get back to her son so bad that she's willing to do this. And she starts off walking fairly proud. And then towards the end, she's just like barely holding it together. And like, there's just like a small amount of humanity in me, I guess, that felt for Cersei in that moment of like, oh my God, this was cool at the beginning because she's getting what she deserves, but now I feel kind of bad for her.
Yeah, right when they start calling her whore, you start to see it on her face when the crowd is starting to get all agitated and yelling and everything and super messed up.
She does a really ballsy job. Well, not really, but she does a really good job of
ballsy
showing that like wall though at the beginning. I mean, for a while it's like, I don't care that I'm naked, I got this. When her feet's not bleeding yet or anything, she's had a few things chunked at her, and they do some really good camera angles of just like showing that those eyebrows arched and her just like staring through these people like they don't faze her. It's so badass how by the end of that, like when Gregor like grabs her, it's just like, yeah, like you just said, Rachel, like you're like, oh my, this poor woman almost by the end of it, just like
walking in front of the Lannister guards. I can't believe I'm
feeling bad for Cersei.
I know, totally. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, pretty ruthless, for sure.
So this scene starts out, I'm starting from when the sparrow is standing on the steps and he goes, "A sinner comes before you. Cersei of House Lannister, mother to his King Tommen, to his Grace King Tommen, widow to his Grace King Robert." And she's looking pretty rough at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, he continues to tell them that she's going to atone for her sins and she's going to be naked before the eyes of gods and men. And when the Septas remove her robe, she just stands there naked. And I was really, when I first watched this, I was like, yeah, she's going to get what she deserves here.
And there's like gasps in the crowd, like,
do you know if she used a body double or not?
Yes, she did.
She did. Okay, that's what I thought.
Oh yeah, that was a big controversy when it happened. Because the girl that they used, I mean, it's been a while since this, so I don't remember it completely clearly, but apparently I think she was like in her mid-20s or something like that. And in the book or something, it's really big about the fact that the crowd's also mocking her age. Like, that's the way it's described in the text. It's been a while since I've read this chapter, but I mean, that's a giant spoiler or anything, but they say stuff like, you know, you could see the perfect queen actually showed signs of age.
Yeah, and like then, her sagging boobs or whatever.
Right. Yeah, but then they use this really pretty, like, body double for her in the show. I mean, I didn't care, but I mean, I know there was, like, a lot of, like, you know, Twitter hate and, you know, Facebook rants on it like the next few nights afterwards.
The littlest thing will throw, you know.
Yeah, all the keyboard warriors came out.
Really? Because I thought they did a good job with her body double.
Oh, yeah, I think they did a really good job with it.
Oh, yeah, the CG work was great.
Yeah, I was trying to figure it out, and they did such a good job.
She is naked in some of the parts, just not during the walk. Like, when they're cutting her hair and stuff, supposedly you can barely tell because they do such a good job of it, but that was the first time Lena Headey was okay with being naked for Game of Thrones, apparently.
Interesting.
Oh, interesting.
When her and Jaime in the first episode, she's always got like clothes on.
Something covering her.
Yeah, and it wasn't really for like the actress, like, oh, I didn't want to be naked. It was always like, no, she's queenly. Like, it's just very like, these are like,
right.
I don't just bare myself to everybody. I'm a queen, like that kind of thing. So you like them stripping her down for this was really getting into the psychology of like her, like everything that she was stripped away, which you know, the High Sparrow says.
Exactly, that queenliness where, you know, very guarded and protected, that's metaphorical for the clothing around her and everything like that.
Right.
I remember the Honest trailer or something. Yeah, one of the Honest trailers, they're talking about, like, you know, Rachel, how we're always referencing by any boobs necessary.
Boobs.
And then, like, when it gets to this part in the Honest trailer, like the sound goes quiet and you hear like crickets and she's walking along naked and he's like, oh, I don't want to see these boobs. Like, shame boobs. Like, no.
I remember that. Yeah.
Pretty great.
Yeah, so then we get Septa Unella's favorite word, shame. Shame. Shame.
Yup. And look who it is, the director of the Department of Redundancy Department. Back to, you know, repeat more things.
Confess. Shame.
Exactly.
And so they kind of push her forward and she hesitates to go forward and she starts walking down the steps and everyone's kind of quiet as she, you know, descends down the staircase.
Yeah, it starts off real quiet.
And so I felt like very anxious when I first watched this because it was eerily quiet. Like, I thought to myself, there's no way that she's going to get through that mob without something going terribly wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
And so then you hear, cunt, bitch, whore, hail to her royal tits. And so she's, you know, like Sir Johnny said, she's, you know, standing pretty tall. She's standing strong. She's looking straight forward. And I think the food tossing and then it escalating from there, you know, with the poop and the pee and the spit on the face. Oh my God.
Food and stuff. Oh God.
That was so fucked. The whore that jumps in front of her and shakes her tits at Cersei.
Oh yeah.
And then the man that jumps in front of her and he's like, suck me off, you bitch.
Yeah. Hanging out with his wang out.
And I love that
I'm taking all these great quotes of you and putting them in the outtakes, like, suck me up, you bitch. How much for your little clam?
That one was so creepy. How much for your little clam?
Oh, God.
So I do love her performance in this because she keeps looking up at the Red Keep. Yeah, and that's her focus is I just need to get home. Like, I'm doing this to get home to my son and to get the hell out of Dodge. And I just need to stay strong. But she's knocked to her knees and then she gets back up a couple of times and then her feet are just completely bloody, which I found kind of interesting. I guess it's a really long walk is what I understand. And she's doing it barefoot.
Yeah, barefoot. And there's who knows what she's walked over. People are probably like breaking pottery and stuff in front of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just that. Like we have this little old like 1960s cement walkway that leads out to our carport here at our house. And every now and then, like if I could run out to my truck or for something, I don't throw shoes on. And between like coming out the back of the house and that carport, any little pebble, right, like between my foot and that cement, like it picks it up and it hurts. So like I can imagine doing that for miles on end.
Yeah, exactly.
On cobblestone.
Hard floor with little pebbles on it. They stick out a lot for sure.
Yeah, so she's almost there. Every time she looks up, the Red Keep gets a little bit closer, and she finally gets to the guards guarding the gate into the Red Keep. And she's just shuffling along.
Yep, just covered in shit and spit and rot and grime.
She just looks awful, and she's breaking down. And this is when I start feeling kind of sad for her. And it's just the way she's walking, or I guess the way her body double's walking, and the way, she's crying, but she waited until really no one could see her, was just, it made me sad for her. for just a half a minute.
For sure. One of the most hardcore parts is like walking naked past the Lannister guards too, you know, who like, she was always in a position of power over them. So it's one thing to have like all the people see you naked, but then to have like people who know you.
Good point.
You know, it's like even more intense kind of.
Yeah, and that's actually what happens right next as she walks through the doors and her uncle is standing right there, Grand Maester Pycelle.
Yep.
And then Qyburn and he raises his eyebrows.
He's like, oh, I've been imagining that for a while.
And Qyburn is the only one that rushes over to cover her with a blanket. And he is, no one else is really moving. I think they're all kind of like, you kind of deserved it. And Qyburn is blatantly choosing Cersei's side here.
Yep. Total brown noser. He's like, he wraps the blanket around her and like grabs her by the hand and he's holding her hand tight. It's good to have you back. Like, well, we need to look at those feet.
I don't know. I don't think he's brown nosing. I really think that he genuinely cares for this person that's given him a position of power. Like, in that moment, he's thinking, God, I don't got to worry about, is her uncle going to have me, killed, or the Grandmaster going to have me, thrown into some place I'll never come out of. She needs him as much as he needs her. Yeah,
brown nosing connotates like falsehood or, duplicitousness, but yeah, you're right. There's none of that there. He likes her because she's down with his MO, his wildness, and they're a perfect pair.
It's a cool scene too, because up until then, it does feel like that. Like all their scenes together, it feels very, let me help you, my queen. Look what I'm working on, my queen. But in that moment where she's that vulnerable, all of the people have stood by her through all these years don't do shit. And this guy steps up.
Yeah, and he's got her back.
And exactly. And then gives her that massive gift.
Oh, man. Franken Mountain, Franken Gregor. It's so cool.
Yeah, he goes, may I have the honor of presenting the newest member of the King's Guard?
Oh. If it please your grace, awesome. He's taken a holy vow of silence. He has sworn that he will not speak until all of his grace's enemies are dead and the evil has been driven from the realm.
And he picks her up and carries her off, and the look of vengeance just glares across Cersei's face like they're going to pay for what they did.
Yeah, and there's the moment that she sees him too, I think is the first moment of comfort that she actually feels. Like she's panicked, like frantic, almost walking through, crying in front of the guards and getting in there, and the blanket's thrown on her, and she's still like shaking and convulsing and crying. And then he points out Gregor to her, and she looks up, and just a calm goes over her face, and it's like something happened in that moment where she just felt like everything was going to be okay, and she was ready to start again, climbing her way back up.
Totally.
I think she realized in that moment her investment in Qyburn paid off.
Yeah, that too.
Like, this guy's got a true talent that I can exploit.
Yeah, he's got my back. He's given me this. Like, this guy's the man.
Yeah.
Remember Qyburn's reaction when they bust out the white at the dragon pit in season 7? He's
just intrigued.
Fascinating. Yeah, it's so cool. Love it.
Yeah.
Does he grab its hand later in that episode? I think.
He totally steals the hand and definitely. Anything else you want to add about this, Rachel?
I think that was it for my notes on my number 3.
Nice. That's a good one. Yeah, what an intense scene. Super, super hardcore.
Definitely.
How about you, Johnny? What do you got for number 3?
My number 3 is the loss of Stannis.
Oh, the menace.
The menace.
I guess a prerequisite to this, up until the death of Shireen, I never was a big fan of Renly. I think a lot of that's because everybody's like, he would have made a good king, and I think he would have been a good king. I think he would have been a lazy king too, just not in the same way as Robert.
Yeah, different kind of lazy for sure. Yeah, I see what you're talking about.
Like throwing, galas and all that kind of, and
instead
partying
of
all the time.
Dances.
Exactly. And with that kind of thing, I always, when the War of the Five Kings really got off to a head, I know everybody's like rooting for for Robb, because that's the way the writing's geared to.
Totally.
But there was always a piece of me that was just like, I don't know, man. This guy is just like, he's it. Like, I mean,
Stannis.
he's, I just love his unwavering, like, freaking integrity almost, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but he's just very, like, loyal to the principles of the land that he's from. Like, I mean, the only time he gives into that is with his kryptonite, which is right next to him all the time, Melisandre.
Yeah, he's very, very justice oriented. His vision of justice, he sticks to it the best he can.
Like, if he wasn't so jaded by her, I ask myself, would he have actually, would he have had the resolve to, like, say Renly didn't have Loras and he didn't have Melisandre, I think he would have had what it takes to, like, get with Renly and been like, hey, let's team up. We're brothers. This is mine by right. And I almost think without, like, the Tyrell influence, that Renly would have been like, okay, would have won it. I mean, it's his brother, and his other brother at that point's gone, so, I mean, again, we don't know. They don't really, unless it's in, like, history books and stuff, but in the show, they don't really give you a whole lot of, like, what was, little Renly growing up's relationship with Stannis, because Stannis is the middle brother, even though a lot of times to me he comes off looking like the oldest brother.
I think that Stannis harbors some resentment against Renly because Robert gave Renly Storm's End. But I mean, other than that, it's not like Renly's fault per se. So
So I used to, sit there and just, I'd have a discussion with a few of my Game of Thrones buddies when we were watching it when it was coming out, and just being like, imagine, like, what this guy could have accomplished without Melisandre.
Yeah. Like, for instance, there's no way he would have burned her Shireen. And that's one thing we were mentioning last episode when it happened, is that you don't want to defend a child murderer, but Stannis is also a victim in this situation. He's totally brainwashed.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, he literally is the embodiment of karma. He makes the worst mistake of his life and immediately pays for it, like, instantaneously. And that's just amazing writing and the way they illustrate it. So for my points on the loss of Stannis, it's mainly, like, within the first few moments of this episode, you see the downfall of Stannis Baratheon with the army leaves and his wife kills herself, and it's
and then Lady Melisandre is seen riding off.
Exactly.
That is the craziest moment.
The 1, 2, 3 punch,
Yeah.
It's just, it is so sad, man. And then in the aftermath of the battle that we don't get to see.
I have that in my notes too.
Dragon last episode.
In the aftermath, we see him wounded in the leg, which is a harken back to, what was it? Robert had gout or something like that, I think. Was it King Robert that had gout? I can't remember.
Duran has gout in his legs big time.
Okay, yeah. So it's and Robert caught the boar, he caught that to the chest, right?
Yeah, to the gut
the side of his stomach.
So the reason I bring all that up is because, like, Robert, he catches a boar to, like, his strength, his midsection and all that.
Right.
But Stannis is, like, always on the move and is always trying to conquer,
pressing
and
forward
from Blackwater Bay. And then he gets, like, right there at the end, they just, like, those Bolton soldiers just chop his legs out from underneath him, basically, by bringing him to his knees, and he still manages to take them out. And I think that is so awesome,
great metaphor.
Even before all the Brienne stuff happens, just in that moment, it's like, he's done for. Mm-hmm. Like when these metaphoric, hands of the Boltons just reach out and take his legs out from underneath them, and literally they show a guy right before that crawling without his legs.
Yeah, that part's nuts.
That was intense.
I feel like the director was trying to say something right there about, like, crippling movement, and it made me think back to, like, well, damn, you can look at it like drinking and hunting killed Robert, but you don't really sit there and think about, like, where did Robert get hit? Where does Stannis get hit? how does Renly is like taken out by a shadow of his brother, a reflection
in
of
the
vanity.
heart, and he was loved by all his people.
Exactly. Yeah. And
damn,
it's
this is cool, man.
I was sitting there going into into the loss of Stannis, like getting his legs taken out from underneath him, like literally his men abandoned him beforehand. Like, so everything is just like chops him, down to where he's just there. And that's why it's just so easy to go on, get on with your duty, when Brienne comes by, because he doesn't have to explain to this woman or grovel to her or try to apologize for what he's gone through. I mean, he's at that moment, he respects why she's there and he understands why she's there and he admits the truth to her, which is what she's always needed, as someone to tell her she's not crazy.
I also think that in that moment when she brings up the blood magic for Renly, he's just made this horrible mistake of killing Shireen, and which has cost him the war, basically. It killed the morale of his troops who left. And I think he's putting all the actions of his past in perspective, because he's been doing these things so that he could become Azor Ahai. Like, he needed the throne so he could be the man, basically. And I think now that he knows that that's not going to happen, everything that he's done is being cast into doubt in his mind. So when she brings up the blood magic and the kinslaying, he's just like, you know what? I killed my daughter. I killed my brother. I'm done. Just fucking kill me. Like, you're right. I'm a criminal, basically.
Yeah. And I like how they cut up to her when she brings the blade down. When she comes down on him, she doesn't look like a seething villain when she does it. She just looks like someone who's like, this is me. Kind of like Ned when he decapitates deserters and stuff. It's
Same
just like,
with Jon,
this is me.
too.
Exacting my justice, which I think is really cool, because there's an episode, I can't remember what it was, a while back, where I don't know if it was Littlefinger, but somebody was, it was Jamie bringing up, let's not act like that Ned didn't enjoy killing,
right?
That these people don't enjoy killing, and I just think that's...
And the Hound too. Your father was a killer. You were all killers.
Yeah. So it's just try to. I don't think that Brienne enjoys it, and I don't think Ned did either.
Yeah, definitely not.
I think there might have been a time when Ned was a younger, cockier sword fighter, but I don't think he ever enjoyed the murderous aspect of it, and to the point of where someone like the Hound or Jamie, I think that I'm not saying they get off to it or anything like that, but I think there's a certain, like with Bronn and the Hound and Jamie,
Bloodlust.
which are all three characters, like three of my favorite characters. Yeah, there's something that gives them like that berserker bloodlust feel to killing. And you don't see that in Brienne's face.
Yeah, we've talked about
Not
the
at
Starks
all.
being sort of unique in that capacity too, is not having that kind of bloodlust that these other houses have.
It's about duty
Brienne
with
too,
them.
yeah. It's because she comes from Ser Duncan the Tall's line, so he was pretty chill too.
That's all I had for my number 3.
Nice, man.
Nice.
I love that. Such a good scene. So my number 3 is the Queen's closest confidant, the commander of the Unsullied, and the foreign dwarf with the scarred face.
Ooh, this is my number 1.
Nice. Let's combine forces. Yeah, just this whole scene in Meereen, basically, where we have Jorah and Tyrion and Dario and Missandei and Grey Worm all sort of talking together for the first time in the absence of Dany. It's so weird.
Oh, wait, I lied. It's not my number 1.
What is your number 1?
My number 1 is when Sansa and Theon escape.
Okay, is this in your top 3?
Let me look. I thought it was.
Nice.
Yeah, it is. It's my number 2.
All right, cool.
Sorry.
No, that's all good. So yeah, we'd be going right into your number 2 anyway next, so we can just collaborate on this.
Perfect.
So we start out in Meereen, and Dany is MIA, and it's like she's like
They're all like bored. They're looking around all bored, twiddling their thumbs.
yeah, sitting around on the throne steps without her. Like, what do we do?
They're pining for her.
Yeah, it's so funny. And yeah, Tyrion's like, you love her, don't you? And you love her. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So Grey Worm walks in, and he kind of laughs about it too, because Jorah's exiled and a dishonored knight, and Dario is just he's like a sellsword. Neither of them are fit consorts for a queen, and he has a kind of a poignant line where he's like, "But we always want the wrong women," like him being in love with Shay. And Tysha, yeah, exactly. Before that, or Jaime being in love with his sisters. This is just a concept that Tyrion is very familiar with.
Well,
very much so.
And that he's continuing. I mean, that's the cool thing I love about this podcast is that it's, spoilers up until where we are right now. And one of the last shots we see of Tyrion is him kind of looking jealous at Jon Snow,
Right. So that put in context with that, is this scene him basically saying, I have a better shot with her than either of you. Sneakily implying it.
Interesting.
Neither of you
I like
are a fit consort for a queen, but me, I'm the heir to House Lannister.
He's a Lannister.
And then Jon showed up. Damn it.
Yeah, exactly. So funny. So Grey Worm walks in, and Jorah says something. He's basically like, "Hey," in Valyrian or something. Grey Worm's like, "What the hell? Like, you're not supposed to be here." And I'm kind of surprised how not stoked he is to see Jorah. I mean, obviously Dany has banished him, but it doesn't seem like he's being particularly friendly about it. He's like, "Dude, what are you doing here?" So Dario stands up for him, which is funny because they're like, I guess they're not really competitors for Dany. So Dario doesn't view it that way, but
friend zone.
Yeah, sad for Jorah. So Dario's like, listen, Dany would be dead without him, and Missandei is like that. That's true, and I would be dead if it wasn't for Tyrion, the little man. And Tyrion knows the Valyrian word for dwarf, which she doesn't, which is funny because she knows like 17 languages, right?
Right.
But his Valyrian is pretty rusty. Instead of saying rusty, he says my Valyrian is nostril, and Missandei gets kind of like a kick out of correcting him immediately, which is great.
Is this the first episode that we see him speaking Valyrian?
Yes, I believe so, yeah. So it's like a kind of a cool reveal. Sort of like the way that Dany knew Valyrian and nobody knew that she knew it. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
So Grey Worm is like, I wish I could fight for Dany. And they're trying to figure out what to do, and Tyrion points out that the dragon headed north, so they have to go that way to find her, basically. And everybody's kind of freaking out because she's pretty essential for the mission. And Tyrion wants to go help, but Jorah's like, what the fuck, you're a Lannister, she's trying to remove your family from power. And again, he's like, I want to help with that. I don't like having my family in power, at least not those ones. Which is pretty classic. He's always like saying, if you're, what he said to Dany last week, if you want to kill Lannisters, I'm the most, prolific Lannister killer of our age.
I'm the best Lannister killer there is.
And it's so funny. So they point out that Jorah's been exiled because, he takes a dig at Tyrion. Tyrion takes a dig back at him. And Jorah is salty because he's like, the second time I was exiled, it was thanks to you. He is not happy with Tyrion. He goes on to say that if he ever kills him, his eyes will be wide open. Because Tyrion doesn't know if he's safe to sleep around.
I like
him.
how Dario is the voice of reason in this conversation, which is, he's like the last person that I would think would have the voice of reason.
Right.
And he's like, he's right. The queen exiled Jorah, and he's right. Jorah saved her life. Perhaps she feels differently about him now. Perhaps not. The only way we will know is if we ask her.
Yeah,
he's like, shut up.
He's playing a Tyrion role here with logic. Is his head tight on his shoulders, which is pretty cool. And so he goes on to ask Dario, Dario goes on to ask Tyrion, like, wait, why would we bring you on this? And he starts asking him about his relevant skills, which is it kind of reminded me of Napoleon Dynamite.
Can you fight?
Yeah. Do you have rock climbing skills?
Have you ever tracked animals in the wilderness?
No, not exactly.
Are you good on a horse?
Middling.
So mainly you talk.
And drink. I've survived this far.
Yeah, which I respect.
Yeah, so I just love that whole little interaction between Dario and Tyrion there, which is really funny. And so Dario is like in the strategic mode right now. He's like, listen, Grey Worm, I know it's cool that you want to come, but you can't. even though you're the most tough, badass person with no balls that I know, or most badass ballless dude. And because the people of Meereen trust you and they know that you speak for the queen, so you got to be here. And the same with Missandei. And he said for some reason he wants Tyrion to stay also. And Jorah's like, but he's a foreign dwarf that barely even speaks the language. Why, why would they listen to Tyrion? He's like, oh, they won't, but they'll listen to Grey Worm. So he says, and Missandei, our queen trusts no one more than Missandei, certainly not me, which is just kind of a funny line. He's like, she doesn't trust me, but he's delivering props where they're due to Missandei, which I liked.
Yeah.
And then he has that line, the queen's closest confidant, the commander of the Unsullied, and the foreign dwarf with the scarred face. Good fortune, my friends. Meereen is ancient and glorious, as he goes to leave, basically.
Try not to ruin her.
Yeah. So funny. And I like how he says, looks like it's you and me, Jorah the Andal. Let's go find some good horses. I just like how people refer to Jorah, even to his face, as Jorah the Andal.
Yeah.
Just a pretty kick-ass nickname.
It's cool.
And then Tyrion walks down the steps towards Missandei and Grey Worm, who are just like looking at each other like, who the fuck is this guy? This is so weird. And then their personalities are just so awkward together. Like, remember when Tyrion is trying to get them to drink and play games?
Yes.
Yeah, tell jokes.
Yeah.
I don't know any jokes.
Yeah. Oh, man. So they're just like awkwardly staring at each other, and Tyrion's like, this is going to be weird. I can tell already. Classic scene. But that's pretty much it, I think, for my number 3. Just love that scene. Anything else you guys want to add about that scene?
No.
Yeah, I got. It's one of the. Well, like, I know I get what the director was trying to do there at the end when he's walking down the steps, when it's just them kind of staring, and it does make you reflect on like what we're gonna see with these characters later. But that's one of the things I'm talking about. It's very. This is not episode 4 or 5. This is the season finale, and this is it.
Right.
Like, we're going to go find her. Okay, go find her.
Yeah, they're just leaving us hanging.
We'll see y'all in like 10 months.
Yeah.
It's just, it's very, it's just, for a character as epic as Tyrion, that was just one of those things that in my notes I was putting down, I was like, where do each of the characters we absolutely care about end off, and at what time in the episode are we really like last left with them? Like, even Arya is kind of early on in the episode with the sight and all that kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's not like in the last 15 minutes or any. It's really. I don't know, man. I think they were really banking a lot on the Jon Snow thing. Like,
yeah,
this
for
is
sure.
going to be so huge that no one's going to know about or really care about this part after this happens. Like that kind of thing.
I also think they had a lot of loose ends to tie up in this episode. There were a lot of story arcs coming to a close that helped propel the overall story into season 6.
Mm-hmm.
That continues the new paths. But like, I think to Johnny's point, they were wrapping up too much. They could have left a little bit more for...
This could have definitely been like a 12-episode season.
Oh, yeah. It was definitely rushed. Things were happening super fast in this episode. But that's just a symptom of the overarching issue that they had to do 8 seasons instead of 13, basically.
Yeah.
So it sucks.
Everybody complains about season 7 and the Ravens with jet propulsion, but I don't know. I feel like the way that, I could probably get a lot of Twitter hate or whatever, or emails for something saying like, but I feel like the pacing in these last few episodes of season 5 was worse than that whole season 7 thing.
Yeah, I would agree.
Again, they don't have the book constraints and stuff like that at that time. It's just more of the George's advisement at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I love season 7 though.
Me too.
Like,
I really like it a lot.
I love season 7.
Like when the mountain smashes that guy's head against the wall after he pisses on his armor.
Yeah. There's just not a dull moment in that season. And in this season, it feels like they were really trying to cram a whole bunch of stuff together, but also woving it together with like a lot of like kind of spacey scenes. And,
right. Instead of jam packing everything and making the most, like the best use possible out of every second, there are like gaps of
again,
like
it's
bubbles, you could say.
Still 9.5 though,
right?
You know,
totally.
compared to a 10.
We're nitpicking.
And like I can rationalize the pacing issues because of the limited time available, but I really like the way that a lot of these storylines ended. Like I was like, oh shit, what's going to happen with Dany? Because that's where we're at in the books right now too. That left off at the same spot where the books are. So it was kind of, you know, it felt like natural based on the book pattern.
Yeah, I think that's why this season felt so final, because I mean, you're in so many areas right now, you know, where the book was like, okay, this is where the books are.
There's a lot of crazy cliffhangers in this, like Dany's gone, Jon
is dead.
Yeah, Jon gets killed. Sansa and Theon jump from the battlements.
Sam goes to the Citadel.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really a cliffhanger. Yeah, crazy stuff happens.
Yep.
But there's some issues too. But anything else about this you guys want to
add? That's all I had.
That's
cool.
For me.
All right. So, Johnny, what about your number 2?
My number 2 is the loss of Jon Snow.
Oh.
It's
sad. For the rewatch.
It was, I mean, it's just one of those, you little shit. And he's like, I kept thinking, I guess my mind played that there was some sort of like, oh my God, what have I done? Like look to Ollie when they kind of keep the camera on him a little bit after he does it. But it's not really, if
it's more just sad that he had to do it, I feel like. Yeah,
like it's not like, oh shit, you know, like when a kid breaks a toy and they wish they could like take it back, or they done something, like there's no remorse in that kid's face for what he did.
Yeah, nothing.
He feels very vindicated in his decision. And that makes it, you know, again, not trying to condone, you know, like you were saying, you know, abuse against children or child murder, but yeah, I love it when he gets his up and comings. You know, I feel almost worse for Alistair whenever he gets hung than I do Ollie.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, because I can't remember. I don't think Alistair stabs him in the novel, but I can't remember or not. It's been a
snappy!
while.
I can't remember either.
Jon gets stabbed 6 times in this scene.
I think Alistair, but there's a whole like crew of other names from the book that I can't remember of people that stab him.
Yeah.
Because I mean, this is a while back, but I think Alistair was sent somewhere else in the books. And I think it's a cliffhanger too, almost like, but I can't remember. I need to reread them.
Yes, in A Dance with Dragons, Jon sends Alistair ranging up north beyond the wall with Tywin and a couple other rangers, and after that, we haven't heard anything yet.
So obviously, whenever we get a new book, if and whenever, I mean, he's not part of the mutiny at that point. So I think that's really, you know, because he kind of led it in the show.
Totally. It's so fucked up how just like elaborate the ruse is too, like this lie that they've concocted and the whole setup outside and
Uncle Benjen.
Yeah, all these people prepared.
The guy hasn't been mentioned since like season 1. So you see, like, I mean, I fell for it, and again, I'd already read all the books up to that point, but I still, when they're like, because you don't know what the show's gonna go,
right? Totally.
Like Uncle Benjen, I'm like, oh man,
fuck,
what? That's traitor.
I get goosebumps every time I see that sign, traitor, and Jon like slowly turns around. It's like as if he knows once he turns around, he's dead.
Yeah, he's like, shit, maybe I can.
Because they're not going to stab him in the back, but now they have him surrounded.
And I think we've said this before, and it might be on, I think it's on when y'all done the history thing, but it's just so like reminiscent of Caesar. Yeah, totally. It's just, you know, and Ollie being Brutus or whatever.
Yeah. It too, Ollie.
Yeah, exactly. it's I try to put myself in the mind, you know, of not knowing what's going to happen when I was doing the rewatch, kind of, because, you know, you got that but I could not push that shot out of my head of like his chest with that scar on it where Ollie hit him, and his body's been all cleaned by Melisandre. Like that, every time he got stabbed, it's like that would flicker in my mind when I was watching it.
Same
it's like
here,
my mind
was
naturally like doing like a coping mechanism as it was happening. Like, it's okay, he's gonna be all right.
He's gonna wake up soon.
You know the future. You have seen it.
It's so sad.
But that was that's pretty much it. I mean,
it's amazing how long he stays standing.
Yeah, all those stabs, and he's still
it just
like,
takes it.
Six stab wounds, and he's still standing. And then, he stands up until the 5th, and then he falls, and then Ollie stabs him in the heart for the 6th.
The directors had him fall so he'd be at the right height to be stabbed by Ollie. That was the only reason he fell.
He's like, and you too, Ollie.
I don't know. Jon Snow's not that tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really not, apparently.
I remember Dave and we watched this live, and I just looked at him and was like, I don't know how there could be a show without Jon Snow in it.
Yeah, if I didn't know that he was coming back, like I was saying, this loss would be too great to bear, man. Like, it's too fucking too brutal.
I mean, even my wife, Amy, looked over at me like, I remember I think had like a pillow all like clutched up in her chest, tear-eyed, and I was like, that's where I'm at too, like with the books. Like, I can't give it. I don't know.
I was like in the fetal position. Crying.
Yeah, for this in the books, and for when Tyrion, when you think Tyrion is dead, when he gets dragged under by the stone men, I remember hearing about people throwing their books across the room.
Oh yeah.
Like, no.
Nice.
Oh, those books are so good. I need to read them again so bad.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had Roy Dotrice's voice. I need to re-listen to him at work.
Yeah, big time.
Side tangent. I wonder who's going to narrate the next two.
I know. It'll be very interesting. I would be down with Harry Lloyd doing it.
Yeah,
he did the Duncan Egg novellas.
That's probably going to be the right choice then. Because
he played Viserys on the show, But I thought he did a pretty good job with that. But then again, with that old that voice that Roy Dotrice had doing all they're gonna have older characters.
Oh
with
yeah, dude,
the grind in their voices,
and the women and everything.
Yeah,
the guy's just a master voice actor narrating.
Yeah, he has a Guinness record for a Game of Thrones book 1 for doing 235 voices in it or something like that for different characters.
What? Really?
Yeah,
that's
totally
crazy.
Wasn't he in the show?
Yeah, he played Pyromancer Helene,
the Pyromancer,
who hands the wildfire to Tyrion.
Yeah,
or whatever.
I remember that he did a cameo.
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't know that was him when I was watching it. I remember he was pointing it out to me afterwards.
He was originally supposed to play Maester Pycelle.
Dude.
Oh.
Or Grand Maester Pycelle. Yeah,
man, that'd been kind of cool. But it's kind of hard not to see
Julian Glover,
Pycelle, because he's so good, man.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we would have had it with Roy Dotrice the whole time, and we would have loved it that way too. But the way it ended up was fine.
Yeah, especially when he jumps out of that bed and cracks his back.
I just hear the music from Honest Trailers every time.
Yeah.
Fucking great. So this scene is so brutal, man. Stabbing just over and over for the watch. And I'm like, oh, for the rewatch.
For the rewatch.
I will suffer for the rewatch.
Yeah, for the rewatch.
Brutal.
That's it for my number 2.
That's all I have for that scene too. Anything else you want to add, Rachel?
No, it's so sad.
Yeah, definitely. So my number 2 was Frank and Gregor, which I just fucking love that whole part. He just picks her up like nothing, and he's just like, I got this. It's so cool.
I like his freaking armor later on too, the Queen's Guard armor.
Oh yeah,
dude, he's just so wicked of a character.
Yeah,
I love it.
Oh, that Queen's Guard, that helmet, so freaking cool. And I mean, it's great in this scene too, like the bright gold armor, and it's just so monstrous. It's crazy.
Imagine if he would have been in the Rainbow Guard.
Renly would have been unstoppable. Oh man.
Like a tie-dye cloak.
Just Massive.
A pot of gold on his cloak.
That's hilarious. I hadn't thought of that before. A pot of gold at the bottom of the cloak. That'd be pretty cool.
Anyway,
so in the books, we question whether or not he even has a head. you just see like shadows when you look through the helm, right? Something like that.
Yeah, something, and they don't call him the Mountain in the books. He's
right. He's Sir Robert Strong.
Sir Robert Strong.
But everybody knows he's the Mountain. But the Mountain's quote unquote dead, and they send his head to Dorne. Right. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. So yeah, we're all like, we know it's Gregor though.
Yeah, and it's the same
How could
actor
it not
too.
be?
Yeah, totally.
That's what's cool.
Oh yeah, on the show, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't make any attempt to hide his identity on the show, I don't think.
No.
So cool, but like all the veins around his eyes, and he just like looks like purple and undead or something. What do you guys think is going on with his status? Is he alive? Is he dead? Is he a white? Is he? He's
a zombie all day long.
Yeah, resurrected.
I think he's like Frankenstein.
That's big. I mean, he's. I mean, Qyburn's a necromancer.
Right.
I think he's a necromancer that's came into his own. Like that's his first, like, real attempt at it working. You know, him studying the dwarf head and all these things. And I'm sure that's why when he sees the white, he's like, oh man, what I can learn from this, I can hone in my craft and get even better, you know?
Oh, when Jon brings it in season 7.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So you think Gregor did die and has been resurrected through necromancy?
I don't think he like kept him alive in some, you know, arcane Renaissance style life support. I think he really, you know, I think he died. Yeah. And I think whenever you see him seizing under that blanket in one of the other episodes, I think that's
I love that part.
Him bringing back, like him pulling something from another world and putting it into him. I really doubt he could. I think that's going to ruin Clegane Bowl for a lot of people, but I think if the Helm was like, you remember putting my face in that fire? He'd be like, no. I don't even know who I am, dude. Have either of you guys ever seen White Zombie, the movie?
No.
Not the band, but the movie. Put that on your to watch list. It's got Bela Lugosi in it.
Ooh.
Oh, nice.
And he's a necromancer in it.
Nice.
And I won't spoil anything, but take a good look at the zombies that are working in the sugar mill in that show, and then take a good look at Gregor next time you see him in zombie mode. And you could definitely tell that there was some studying on like these classic, I think because the movie came out in like 1933 or something.
That's so funny.
It's an amazing, and the music, it takes place in Haiti. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. I freaking love it. White Zombie. I mean, it's where, you know, Rob Zombie got, you know, the name his band and all that kind of stuff. But it's a hell of a piece of cinematic work.
Damn, I'm writing it down.
Yeah, it's a long movie for a black and white movie, but it holds you, and it's one of Bela Lugosi's best works by far.
Radical.
Yeah, and it's in the public domain, so it's free on YouTube. Yeah.
Even better. Yeah, because that's awesome.
Yep.
All right. So that wraps up my number dose. How about your number 1, Lady Rachel?
Awesome. So my number 1 is when Sansa and Theon escape.
Nice.
So,
nice.
I do want to start where she's hurrying through Winterfell and her hood's on, and she heads up the stairs. She used that bung screw
to get out, right? Bored through the door to the lock.
Yes. And I found it was interesting that she just like left it dropped on the floor. Like, what the heck? So she's walking by the Bolton men, and she has the candle in her hand. The camera pans over to Podrick, and he's gathering firewood and dead rabbits, and he hears screaming, and he looks down to see Stannis' army, and it's marching towards Winterfell.
And he just drops all that shit.
And he just takes off, and he's like, my lady, Stannis Baratheon is coming, his entire army.
Right. And
Brienne
Brienne
looks
hates
extremely
Stannis.
disheveled, by the way.
Yeah, the army looks rugged.
Brienne's like, how do you know it's Stannis? And Podrick's like, he's carrying his flaming heart banners from the Blackwater. I'll never forget it. And then it pans back over to Sansa, and she's approaching the broken tower, and she has a candle in her hand. And then it pans out over to Stannis, and Stannis is like, put another trench here, and 300 yards down the way. We need to set up foraging parties immediately. The siege begins at sunrise, and the soldier's like, not gonna happen.
There's not going to be a siege, Your Grace.
And then
I'm wondering, how many of those fucking riders that come over the hill there, how many of them are the sellswords that just abandoned Stannis and joined the Boltons instead?
Oh my God.
Coming at him with his own horses and shit. That.
I didn't even
They're
think
like,
about
listen,
that.
we'll do the job for half price for you. We got him, we got all his fucking horses and shit. We'll just run right over him, but just let us crash at Winterfell for the fucking winter and don't kill us, please.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
And then the Bolton army is just completely unharmed because the sellswords do all the work. I don't know. I just had this thought going through my head.
And the look on Stannis' face when this happens is just, to me, it's a combination of surrendering, but also stepping into what he's been talking about this entire time, was just moving forward and just going to battle. That's why he's there.
Right. And from what I saw, we'll get into this a little bit later when we talk about earlier Stannis stuff, but he just lost his daughter. He just lost the Red Woman. He lost his army. Like you're saying, Johnny, he got crippled, his legs taken right out from under him, metaphorically, before literally. And he's right now, especially after the Red Woman bailed on him and shit, he just wants to fuck some shit up. He's like, we're going forward. I'm about to fucking hack and slash motherfuckers.
Well, think about it. When someone loses everything, and if they give up and they're ready to, I guess, end it all.
Right.
Suffocate yourself, slit your wrist, take a bunch of drugs, or go out in a blaze of glory with all your comrades and freaking just cut shit up. I mean, that's probably why he survives as long as he does, because he's just pure berserker mode that whole time.
Adrenaline.
He just wants to kill. Oh man, it's fucked up. Sorry to cut you off there.
That's okay. So it pans back up to Sansa, and she's up in the broken tower, and she's looking down at the battle. And
what a view!
Oh, yeah. I know. And you just, all of a sudden, it's kind of quiet, and then all of a sudden, you just hear this uproar of screaming and metal clinging together. And
Stannis' army is just being surrounded.
Oh, yeah. Big time. I love that aerial shot of the Bolton army coming towards, and like every other row of horses like goes out further than the row next to them, and it's super cool looking.
And Sansa is just like horrified. Like, I mean, how many times has she looked down from this tower and everything? And first of all, seeing war outside Winterfell walls has got to be, kind of traumatizing. Second of all, her hope, Stannis, which, Littlefinger's like, Stannis will arrive and take over Winterfell, and everything like that. And she's watching her hope be destroyed.
This is her exit strategy.
Yeah, it's so brutal.
And they're getting just completely slaughtered. So then it cuts to all of the slaughtered men and the banners and the dead horses. And
that scene where Stannis draws his sword, though.
Oh, yeah.
So fucking epic,
awesome.
Epic.
The riders come over the hill, and everybody's just watching, and he just pulls his sword out, and then everybody just draws their swords, and Stannis looks so fucking badass, dude. Something about that armor with like the plates going down like from the chest through the ab area, it just looks super cool. It makes him look kind of like Iron Man or something.
Yeah, we've talked about his armor before, and I have to agree, it's really cool armor.
Yep, there's just little to no leg protection. Unfortunately, he's not covered in plate.
He doesn't have no mystical leg protection either.
No wards, no blood magic wards or anything like that.
So I know we covered this scene a little bit earlier with Johnny, when he's hobbling and fighting the men, and he kills the men, and he kind of resigns himself to laying up by a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks over, and you don't see anybody, but you can hear someone approaching.
Yep.
And then you hear him say, Bolton has the women fighting for him. And instantly you know, right even before it pans over, that it's Brienne of Tarth.
Who hates Stannis.
I do not fight for the Boltons. I am Brienne of Tarth. I was Kingsguard to Renly Baratheon.
And at that moment, he, like, right when she says that, the camera cuts back over to him and he sort of has a look of realization, because he was the shadow. It was when he was asleep. He's controlling it through a dream, I think.
Oh.
And so he was seeing what the shadow was seeing. He would have, in this moment,
recognized her.
Yeah, remember seeing Brienne with Renly as he's doing the deed.
Wow.
So he's like, yeah, that's why I am assuming that's why he confesses, because he's like, you know the truth already. Like, we saw each other, you know?
Wow, I didn't even realize that. Yeah, so
he almost either. Yeah, he has like this moment of recognition, and his face kind of like pales a bit. You can like, it's just really crazy. He's like, oh shit, like this moment of realization.
Huh. Got it. That's crazy.
Yeah, she's like, I was there when he was murdered by a shadow with your face. And she's just like, you murdered him with blood magic? And he's just like, you saw it. Like, yep, I did it.
I did.
And I think,
I did it.
Yeah, that's that moment where like everything is coming into perspective, I think, from him. He's seeing everything from a new lens. Like, if it wasn't for the ultimate victory and saving the world, like, what was all this blood magic for that everybody's been telling me is evil this whole time? You know, it was just evil. It wasn't for any greater good. I'm about to die.
It's rough. Yeah, so Brienne, pulls her sword a little bit out to show the Valyrian steel.
So badass. The half unsheathed.
Yeah.
Of a sword called Oathkeeper, and she vowed that she would get vengeance on Stannis for killing Renly. So she goes into her, in the name of Renly of House Baratheon, first of his name, rightful king of the Andals and the First Men, lord of the Seven Kingdoms and protector of the realm, I, Brienne of Tarth, sentence you to die. Yeah. Do you have any last words?
He looks fucking dumbfounded at this. Like, not only like has his legs been cut out from underneath him and all
He's
that.
He's being killed by a woman.
Yeah, being killed by a woman. But this thing that he did so long ago at this point is coming back around full circle. And he killed Renly, and
karma.
Now Renly's death is coming back to kill him. Yeah.
He got insta-karma'd and later karma'd.
Yeah, he's not defeated by the Boltons. He's defeated by Renly.
Right. Yeah, isn't that nuts?
Both of them, really, because the Boltons crushed the army, and true. Brienne crushed his face.
He just looks fucking dumbfounded at this moment. He's just like, wow, this is surreal. It's crazy. I think Stephen Delane's performance here is just fucking brilliant. Like, this whole episode is just so good.
So then we cut over to crazy psychopath Ramsay.
Yeah, Brienne swings a sword, and then it cuts to Ramsay swinging a sword. And a cool transition.
Yeah.
And he goes, looks like we're done here. And then he hears one more survivor. I surrender. I surrender. And this is how you know how fucked up Ramsay is. He's and I accept your surrender. Bink! Right in the back. It's like, and like that twist and that look of craziness on his face, it's just intense.
Yeah, of course, it's like so Ramsay for him to just be going around and brutally murdering all the stragglers just for the fun of it. Like, that's so Ramsay.
I had this in my notes, but it'll fit in right here. Why would Ramsay not seek out Stannis' body at that point? You know what I mean?
Yeah, good question.
Like,
well, maybe he did.
We're done
maybe
here.
We just didn't see it,
Yeah, I mean, the way the timelines line up in this. But I mean, with the way Sansa runs off, though, and the way he returns, I mean, he had to run up into the trees and then come back to the battlements. It's kind of, I always thought that was kind of odd, but I didn't think about it too much until, obviously, when I rewatched the whole series and then rewatched this again for this episode. I was just like, he's just one of those people, it just seems like he would want that guy flayed in his courtyard.
Yeah,
and
I find it interesting that they just don't show it all together. Why didn't they show an actual image of him dying?
There's speculation that he's still alive, of course.
Yeah,
Oh, and she hits the tree instead and like lifts him up to his feet. Come with me.
Yeah.
We can't tell nobody until season 8.
Come with me if you want to live.
Come with me if you want to live.
Get to the chopper. It will take you to Essos for safety. We'll pretend you're dead over here. It will be okay.
To Essos.
Get to the dragon.
Yeah, so then it cuts back over to Sansa, and she's hurrying back to her chambers because, as we just heard Ramsay say, let's head back. My wife must be lonely.
Oh, God, what a creep.
And she knows that her time is short and that someone might recognize her. And so she heads up the stairs quickly, trying to get back to her chambers. And she sees one of the Bolton men. So she does a total 90-degree swooping turn and doubles back. And she rushes up through the door and she turns the corner looking behind her, and she turns around and Miranda is sitting there with a bow drawn right to her face.
So brutal.
And Miranda is just as crazy as Ramsay, if I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
She's my lady. I have come to escort you back to your chamber. And Reek is like, go with her. Reek.
Reek rhymes with weak. He's so weak in that, like, you know, at least right at this moment.
And Sansa's just like, God, fuck. Like, I know what Ramsay is. I know what he's going to do to me. If I'm going to die, let it happen while there's still some of me left.
Die? Who said anything about dying?
Oh, no. You're not going to die.
Oh, it's going to be so much worse.
You're going to be fucking tortured.
Yeah.
Except for your lady bits. You're going to be fucking tortured.
So,
Ugh.
Rachel, do you think that if she would have said, got a cross or an arrow off in her arm, that Ramsay would have just came back and smiled like evil Frodo, or do you think he would have done something to her for doing it? I think he would have hurt her.
Oh,
worse.
I absolutely.
Hurt Miranda?
Yes. I mean, I know he loves her and everything, but in that moment, like right now where he's at with Sansa, I mean, it's not Miranda he's thinking about out there on the battlements. You know, he's sickly in love with Sansa, like twistedly in love with her.
Yeah, he's like infatuated with her.
And, you know, and he has no problem rubbing that Miranda's face in the other episodes.
Right.
So if he would have came back and there she is in her room and he walks in like, what happened to your arm? You know, like if he doesn't see Miranda first or something like that.
Yeah, I think he might have punished Miranda, maybe not harshly.
Cut her arm off or something.
But I think he would have probably punished her. Because we know that when Ramsay finds Miranda, he feeds her body to the dogs, like instead of burying her, setting her body on fire.
Oh, shit. I forgot about that. He is real pissed, though.
Well, he's got attachment disorders. So, I mean, if the dogs, like, consume her, then he doesn't have to, you know, go out and visit her grave or think about her. There's nothing to hold on to at that point. It's gone.
Yeah,
like any memory of her.
Hang out with his dogs and kind of be with her again.
Yeah. Let me hug the dog.
Kennel Master's daughter.
I just stepped in Miranda.
It's so creepy when she says he's got incredible plans for those parts, when she's talking about when she's done giving him a boy or two.
Yeah. What do you think she means? Like, I don't even want to know, actually.
I think she's making that shit up.
Oh, totally. She's trying to scare her.
Yep.
Because Sansa says straight to her face, you can't frighten me here. This is my home. And so I think she's kind of taking her up on that bet. Like, really? Are you really not afraid of me? And she goes, shall we wait for him to come back, or shall we begin? And Miranda's like, oh, you're going to leave it to me. Okay, let's begin. And she draws her arrow back. And as she goes to release it, fucking Reek for the win. Yeah. Pushes her out of the way. This
is where Theon emerges from the Reek shell. He can't see Sansa get like killed. He already fucked her over and screwed over,
this is his
Rickon
moment.
Darth Vader moment.
Yeah, this is the Darth Vader moment. Yeah, the Emperor is about to kill Luke, and Darth Vader has to, intercede. Exactly. Great metaphor, Johnny. You nailed it.
Totally. And so Theon fucking throws her off the battlements.
Just like the Emperor down the shaft.
Yep.
And
screaming and all.
Yeah. Oh, I love that part too.
She just plasters to the ground. It's nasty. So fucked up.
It's like a thud and a squeal combined. Oh.
Yeah.
Slow
and so
rotation of the fall. Gnarly.
they both kind of look over at Miranda's body and the horn blares. And we get, open the gates.
And they're just like, we gotta fucking get out of here.
Reek/Theon at this point, he's coming back. And they both look at each other like, well, what are we going to do? And Theon grabs her hand and they run up the wall. And they climb to the very top and look down to see a pile of snow. And Theon offers his hand to Sansa. She takes it. And they look at each other and there's a moment of trust there. Like, are you going to jump? Because I'm going to jump.
Yeah,
and they both jump together.
Totally parallels when Dany grabs Missandei's hand in the last episode when they think they're going to die.
Oh, yeah. Good catch.
Making a connection with right before imminent possible death and like accepting each other. It's like a moment of reconnection and like, I don't know, like catharsis kind of for both of them. And
totally.
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore. It's kind of a big moment. It's a similar thing too with Dany and Jorah being reunited in the last episode, and like she was super mad at him, but they're gonna like face this crazy obstacle together. Then, yeah, it's crazy that they're gonna be traveling together. Mm-hmm.
And this is Sansa's start up to Castle Black.
Yep. I think that Sansa may have even gambled on Theon a bit there. Like,
totally.
Like she knew that he was in position to intervene with Miranda, and she just pushed the boundaries to see if Miranda would act, and was hoping that Theon would snap out of it, I think. Because he's sitting there telling her, like, like, do what she says, go with her, because he cares about Sansa and he wants her to have the minimal punishment and the minimal pain. So if he feels that Miranda is about to, hurt her or something, odds are he may intervene, and she bet correctly, it seems.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally. Yeah. So that's my number one.
Nice. It's a good one. I noticed when their hands are interlocking at the end there, when Theon reaches for Sansa's hand, that Theon's fingers look intact inside of his glove. Which, in the books, he's missing pieces of fingers and whole fingers, and they put like fake things in his gloves when he goes to try to take Moat Cailin, so that people won't know that he's been as thoroughly tortured as he has been.
Yeah, this one they were just pulling his nails off.
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh God, I hate that when he peels his little pinky nail off.
Yeah, it's brutal. All right, how about you, Archmaester Stitches? What do you got for number one?
All right, for mine I have number one, too little, too late.
Ooh.
So I have 7 points in the episode that stuck out to me. That coin, too little, too late. My number one of those is Marcella and Jaime. I think that out of all the season finale kind of deaths, that this one probably gets overlooked a lot, especially in this episode,
good call.
But it is, like her accepting him for what he is. I mean, it's like, I know a lot of people I've read on things like, she was completely okay with, her uncle being, her dad, being her uncle, that kind of thing. And it's like, I mean, when you're at that age, and you're falling in love, and love is, blind and all that. But at the same time, hindsight's 20/20. What are you going to do about it? You can't go back and, go back in the womb and try again. It's not your fault that you were a product of incest. Right. I mean, I guess at one point you just got to accept it. And when she confesses that to him and basically says how proud she is to be his kid, it's just...
What a moment, man.
Oh my God.
Jamie's never had any fatherly moments where like his kids know that he's a father, so it's like huge for him. And then it's sort of like the reverse Stannis, where Stannis willingly gives up his child it's like cruelly played on this like cruel joke is played on Jaime here, where he's like given his child and then she's like stripped away from him immediately.
And he doesn't even get to respond to her, really.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as she divulges all that, I mean, he doesn't even get a chance to say, it's all I've ever wanted. I'm so glad you're coming. Like, the conversation they would have had the rest of that ride would have been, he would have came off, this is my favorite kid. It's just all these things. But I mean, alas, it wasn't to be.
It's interesting. The poison kicks in sort of similarly to the way that it does with Bronn, where like you have heightened emotions and your nose starts to bleed and then like it hits. I don't know. Just thought that was interesting.
It almost it's like they get dizzy and their vision goes and it happens fast.
Emotional trigger though, which is interesting.
Oh yeah.
The next one I had on Too Little Too Late was Stannis' fight, obviously.
Oh yeah.
That one we kind of spelled out already. The candle in the window was another one.
So brutal.
Oh God,
Brienne is literally caught in between two oaths. Yeah. Her oath to avenge Renly and then her oath to protect Sansa.
And right as she walks away,
right,
it lights up.
Yeah, and she's physically positioned partway in between Podrick, who represents one oath, and the candle in the window, which represents the other oath, and she's like looking back and forth. It was just very visually representative of the situation. Yeah.
Too little, too late.
Totally.
Arya putting the face back.
Yeah.
That was so funny.
I'm gonna sneak in. I'm gonna put this right here. Oh shit.
Busted.
And then, of course, Miranda trusting Reek, kind of. I mean, she's got him right there. She's so used to him being whipped. Like if she would have just been about, 10 more feet away from him, she would have been able to sidestep him or something. Mm-hmm. But she's right there, and it's just too little too late. He flung you over because, you didn't see him as a threat in the situation.
Yeah, and everybody around Miranda is being compromised by Sansa. Ramsay's been compromised by her, like you said. She's like infatuated with her. And now Reek's been compromised by her, by Sansa, and picked Sansa over Miranda, basically, and just, and killed her.
I think Cersei's confession comes too little too late. I think if she would have straight up confessed like right at the beginning, I don't think that the Sparrow would have had as much time to divulge his, in my eyes, maniacal plan, because I think the guy's a sadist. He just doesn't want to admit it to anybody.
Interesting.
Like I think he gets total enjoyment out of what he's doing to these highborns.
Yeah, did you see the look he gave her when she was naked? He was like, "Hoo, hey."
So if she would have spent less time, trying to assert her power over the Septon and things like that, every time she walked in, like she was just straight up tapped into Cersei mode. And as soon as confess, I wish to confess right now. Like came in there, I think I just want to see my son and like put off, I'm ready to do my trial, whatever I need to, like that kind of thing, instead of being stubborn and, prolonging it. And by the time it comes down to it, I'm sure that the Sparrow was just counting down, like she can't take much more. And as soon as she broke, he's like, yes, got her.
Yeah.
And then he has such enjoyment in telling her, oh, this is just you going back to your kid for a little bit while we get ready for your trial, bitch.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, but you have to walk naked through the streets to get there.
Exactly. So, again, too little too late on the confession. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, Jon's death, seeing the writing on the wall, being able to, sending Sam away, like seeing all these
writing
things
on the wall, quite literally.
Yeah. Like it's too late. Like he getting back from bringing the wildlings back, coming off of Hardhome and all that still being there. He didn't have time to think to, oh crap, smell a mutiny or anything like that. I mean, he knew what he was doing was already upset by what little speech Ollie gave him earlier. So again, too little, too late to save his own life in that moment.
Yeah, pretty brutal, man.
I just thought that was kind of cool that like lurked over the episode, like this up just about 2 minutes earlier. Oh, about 4 feet this way, like all these little things to just slightly would have tipped it where you would have been okay, that kind of thing.
That's cool.
So.
I like it.
That's cool. Yeah, I love like overarching themes.
Like, why didn't Jamie have some meaningful conversation with his daughter while he was still in Dorne at one of those moments off screen that we don't see? You know what I mean?
Yeah, too little,
like,
too late.
Exactly. You know, I mean, been able to swoop her out of there before that bitch could, you know, kiss her. What an awkward kiss too.
Fuck, man. Ilaria, she's so Cersei-like in this episode.
She is. She's Cersei-like, period, man.
Yeah.
She's got problems. But that was my number one. That's it.
Nice, man. That was a good one.
So what's your number one, Duncan?
My number one is just the Stannis stuff. So we'll cover anything that we haven't already covered. Like the start of the episode where Melisandre... Okay. It starts with Melisandre seeing all these icicles melting, and
she's so
she's
excited,
like smiling, and bubbly, and it's going to be a great day. Wrong. So
everyone's leaving.
Yep, she goes out, finds Stannis. She finds him in the tent, and she's like, "Oh yeah, like, you know, it's working. The Lord of Light is coming through. The snows are melting away. The way ahead is clear." And he's like, "We ride for Winterfell." And she's like the devil in his ear, kind of like, "And you'll take it," you know, like telling him what he wants to hear and everything. And he doesn't look too well, you know. And as she's talking to him, there's like these little twinges of anger like going across his face. And I'm thinking, oh man, at this point, I think that he resents Melisandre for making him do all these things that he's done. This Shireen particularly. But views her as like a necessary evil that he's got to deal with in order to reach his destiny.
Yeah, well, in that moment, she truly, like, when she sees that stuff melting, like you were saying, she really believes she fucking did it. Like, she's just genuinely like, "I did it! Oh my God!" And we see that face later when she brings Jon back, like, "Oh, fuck, it worked."
Right,
like,
yeah.
It's like, dude, she really doesn't have much confidence in her powers except for fucking shadow babies, apparently, and birthing them out.
I feel like until this point, like that smile was just like, she was like, I feel like she was expecting it to work, you know, and she's like, "Oh, awesome, it's working," you know. And then one by one things start going bad, and it's like a whole series, like a chain of bad omens for Melisandre here. Like, first of all,
cowards out, man.
Yeah, Stannis is mad at her. Like I was saying, she's talking to him, like telling him what he wants to hear, and what she thinks is true also, and he's, you know, like there's like flickers of anger going across his face, and after she says, you know, "You'll receive what is yours by right," he just like, like she goes to hug him, and he just like brushes her aside and walks away from her, like all pissed off, and she's kind of shocked by this, and the way that she's surprised by it, that tells me that she hadn't foreseen this. You know, so it's like it's a surprise to her, and she's like, "Oh, this is weird. You know, I didn't see this set in the flames." And so they go out. He goes outside, and she follows him. And this guy approaches and says, "Your Grace." And it's the guy who, in the last episode when Shireen was burning, it focused in on this guy's reactions a couple times, as like he sort of was the one that, like, all of the other people's reactions were summed up by his, like all of the soldiers. Like he was like, oh, this is fucked up. You can tell that he was, you know, not liking it basically. And so he's like, "Your Grace," and Stannis kind of, you know, blows him off and is saying something to somebody else, telling, you know, instructing his army to prepare for battle basically.
Yeah.
And the guy again is like, "Your Grace." And that's not good, you know, if he's like insistent on this. Obviously something is not right. So Stannis is like, you know, tell me, like, what the fuck's going on? And he tells him that the men have deserted before dawn. And again, Melisandre looks shocked, like surprised. These are two negative things right in a row that she didn't see coming, and she's like, you know, amazed by it. Like, she's
really, like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah, like you can tell she's really worried. And Stannis goes on, and she's worried before they find out that nearly half the men are gone. All the sellswords with all the horses, no less. Like, fuck, they even took the horses. And Melisandre is like,
she closes her eyes in defeat.
Yeah, Stannis is speechless, and Melisandre, like, literally, yeah, like you said, closes her eyes. sort of like the way that Stannis closed his eyes when he was hugging Shireen, like, defeated in what he has to do, like, no choice, no options. And so Stannis is like, what the fuck? Like looking over at Melisandre, like, what the fuck? Like you're supposed to be fixing all this shit,
Yeah.
And so then somebody else comes out of nowhere, Your Grace. And he's like, what? It can't be worse than mutiny. Yeah, just tell me, like, what the fuck is going on? And the guy, like, kind of breaks eye contact, and you're like, oh shit, it is worse than mutiny. Something's really bad. Yeah, so Stannis rushes out to the woods with like anger and hurry on his face, and looks up in like rage and almost at Selyse swaying from the tree. And the music, man, it's so intense. It's like a still shot, like the camera's dead still, and it's just her slightly swaying, super creepy. And the music is like, and it's a 6 to a flat 6 over the root, and a 2 to a flat 2. And they're sort of like creating tension through moving chromatically through the scale and going major to minor. And Stannis, like, his face kind of like changes to almost being like confused and shocked and perplexed. And then he sort of tries to like snap back into it, and he just, he's like, cut her down, this is fucked up. And somebody comes up to him, Your Grace, the lady Melisandre was just seen riding out of camp. And this is when like his whole world falls apart, basically, because she's been, the master pulling the strings behind the curtain, basically painting the picture of his reality that he's so deluded by. And when she's gone and the painting, bursts into flames, basically, and his wife is gone, his daughter's gone, his army's gone, hope is gone, and now the Red Woman is gone. He is fucking furious, and he realizes that it's all for naught. Everything is sort of coming into perspective, and he's ready for a suicide run at this point.
Yep.
He's just like, get the men into marching formation.
Basically what it is.
Yeah, and he's ready to die. But he also, first, he wants to just fucking destroy. Like we were saying, going to berserker mode.
Yep.
So
going out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah, he's just like, on to Winterfell, and they all move forward. And that's the next part we see, is when he's giving him a speech, telling him, like, it's time to get this siege ready, basically. And his army is just fucked, man. It's so fucked. Yeah. I think we pretty much covered everything after that in regards to his storyline. So, yeah. Anything you guys want to add about the Selyse stuff, or Melisandre abandoning him, or anything?
I think he would have killed her. So I think she made a good move.
Totally. He would have totally killed her.
He was already choking her to death before. So
she made a
right.
A solid move.
Damn, that's hardcore. And she realizes, as all these things are happening, the army's gone, etc. She's realizing that the visions that she's seen must have been misinterpretations, but she does know that she has seen herself atop of the battlements of Winterfell after a great battle in the snow. So she's just like, I got to get out of here, because I know that I'm going to live.
Battle.
Yeah, this is not the battle. Like, I got to just try to find my way back to the path. But she is just destroyed by this, because she was equally as deluded as Stannis was.
Oh yeah, definitely.
She goes back to Castle Black, and when Jon's dead, also, she's just like, she's destroyed. It takes her, Davos has to beg for her to even try to resurrect Jon and convince her that she has value still, because she's about to just lay down and die. She takes off the necklace in the next episode, and that is symbolic for the way that she feels. Like, it's just like, it's over for her at this point. She crawls up and, curls up in her bed naked, and old and just giving up basically. And it's just intense.
I took it as coming face to face with her true self to reevaluate what she's there for.
Yeah, that too. Totally facing reality to figure out where to go next.
Yeah.
Yep.
By far.
Realign her faith or refind her faith, because I think her faith is lost at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we've noticed that it's got to be her letting go at that moment when she's crawling into that bed, because there's plenty of scenes without her with that necklace off. I mean, with the necklace not on her and other scenes.
Yeah.
So it's got to be some kind of power within that she just says, fuck it, and lets go at that moment.
Interesting.
Like, I don't care if, some Night's Watchman busts into this chamber and sees me like this. I mean, where am I? What have I done? Like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy.
Totally.
It's intense.
It just shows how weak she is in that moment. Like, imagine what kind of power it takes to hold that all in and keep that all disguised and not show your true form.
Definitely.
So, shall we move on to notes?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Oh, I also just want to say that partial unsheath that Brienne does is just so fucking gangster, man.
Oh, yeah. She's like, check out my Valyrian steel.
Yeah. Just pulls it part way out, and she's just like, yeah, this is, like you're saying, check out my Valyrian steel. Stannis probably looks at it and he's like, yeah.
At least it'll be a clean, quick death.
Yeah. Oh, man. Stannis was so good in this episode. His facial expressions and everything were just fucking perfect.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So, Rachel, what do you got for your first notes?
My first note is up at Castle Black with Jon and Sam.
Yeah, same here.
That's my first note, too.
Nice.
Awesome.
Jon is explaining to Sam what happened at Hardhome.
He raised his hands. They all stood up at once. So fucked up.
Tens of thousands of them. The biggest army in the world.
He's traumatized.
Sam's like, what are you going to do about it?
I hope they don't learn how to climb the wall.
But the dragon glass? Jon's like, no one's ever getting that back. No one's ever going over there again.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have even made a difference unless we had a mountain of it.
Oh.
Yes, I caught that too. This is in my notes. So just a couple episodes ago, Stannis told Sam that there's a ton of it on Dragonstone. And now Jon is hinting that they're going to need a mountain of it. And then, of course, we know in season 7, the steamy cave.
Yeah.
Sam's like, wait, I don't get it. You killed a White Walker. And he goes, with Longclaw.
Right.
I saw them shatter steel axes like they were glass, but Longclaw, Sam's like, it's made of Valyrian steel. How many Valyrian swords are left in the Seven Kingdoms?
Not enough. Classic response. Yeah. Not enough. I was wondering, like, what do you think it is about Valyrian steel that makes it so it can stand up to the White Walker's weaponry? And then I had a thought that the White Walker's weapons they're like ice. They're made with ice magic, right? Whereas Valyrian steel is forged with dragon fire, which is fire magic. So they're equal and opposite and would be able to withstand each other, basically.
I love it.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because people have speculated about it before that maybe the reason why the White Walkers are killed by the Valyrian steel is maybe that it's made with dragon glass in it or something like that, which is also possible. But it's definitely made with dragon fire, and that's fire magic.
Yeah, I think it's probably more plausible that way.
Agreed.
So it's interesting that it's like equal to the ice magic weapon, but it overpowers the ice magic of the White Walker itself and kills the White Walker.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The plot thickens.
Very interesting.
You need to think some more about this.
Everything always boils down to fire and ice.
Yeah, totally. And while we're talking about what Valyrian steel is made of and things like that, there's a real good episode of the podcast Radio Westeros. I think it's episode 8, The Long Night. And they dig deep into all this crazy theorization about the reasons for the long night and things about the long night and what makes Valyrian steel and what Azor Ahai did for his blade. And just a really cool episode with lots of factoids and neat speculation about things like this, worth listening to.
Nice.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so Jon's like, there's not enough Valyrian steel swords at all.
Yeah.
And then he's shaming himself. He's like,
Right.
I'm the first Lord Commander to sacrifice the lives of sworn brothers to save the lives of wildlings. Like, and it was a failure, essentially.
How does it feel to be friends with the most hated man in Castle Black?
It's cool, bro.
Yeah, he's like, we've always been friends.
That's what I have in my notes. Well, my one note for the scene is Jon letting Sam go. They're best good friends.
Totally.
They're best good friends.
Yeah,
That's my best good friend.
Jon looks so fucking sad when Sam is riding off there.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Totally.
he's like on the verge of tears, like bromance is getting broken up.
If you set it free and it comes back, well.
Oh man, so funny.
Yeah, so Sam tells Jon, I wanted to ask you something. You really should send me and Gilly and the baby down to Old Town so I can become a maester. I'm meant to be a maester. I'm not meant to be like a fighter, essentially.
I think he's been thinking about it since telling Gilly about the Citadel a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, me too. I have that in my notes. I think Gilly kind of planted that seed for him. And, Jon's like, no, dude, I need you here. Sam's like, well, you have Ed. Ed's cool. I'll be more used to you as a maester, especially now that Maester Aemon's gone. And I love that sentiment. He's like, this is my perfect opportunity to step into a role of the Night's Watch that I can actually, be of good service to.
Right, combine like what he's stuck with just being in the Night's Watch with what he wants, which is being a maester, because the Night's Watch needs a maester.
Exactly. And, Sam's right. If Gilly stays here, she's going to die. We're all basically going to die up here.
Yeah. It's also to like honor Maester Aemon too, which is cool.
Totally. And Jon's like, they're going to not allow you to have women at the Citadel too. And he's like, they can bloody try. And
I love that.
Jon's like, oh, Sam.
Yeah. What's with this new enthusiasm? Has something changed?
How did you do it? Very carefully. I'm glad the end of the world is working out for someone.
Oh,
and
man.
I love it. Sam goes, I'll come back. And Jon raises his glass to your return.
Yeah,
and
he
then
finally
they leave.
caves in there somewhere.
And it's so sad.
Yeah. Sam does a pretty good job of convincing him there, and he's like, oh, fine, you can go. That's another thing that, like, plot development that happens really fucking fast.
Yeah.
Within one episode, Sam's like, maybe I should be a maester. And Jon's like, bye, Sam. And he's just gone.
In the books, he doesn't want to do it, I don't think.
Yeah,
I think
it's
the
Jon's
opposite.
idea in the books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
very
interesting.
Yeah, because I think his father beat him with like maester chains or something like that. They had said in the books.
Yeah, Sam's like, he wanted to be like a wizard and a maester, but he's just like so traumatized, I think, by his dad's brainwashing that he's like, oh, no, Jon, don't send me.
I can't see the maester chains.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that was my first note.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny. So what do you got next, Johnny?
Really, that was it. We covered most of my other ones during the top three.
Cool. So next I have Meryn Trant
Yes.
in Bravos.
I can't believe this was in none of our top three.
Yeah, I know, right?
I thought for sure it would be in one of your top three.
It's just nobody wants to like think about this or talk about like the little girl stuff probably, so that's why.
Yeah.
Like
I hate this scene.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
Even the justice later, like with his eyes being stabbed out and
so brutal.
Like Tarantino kind of fashion.
Yeah, seriously.
This is definitely for the rewatch moment for me.
Oh yeah,
it was brutal.
Yeah, so Meryn is like, he's got 3 little girls in front of him, and he's just like beating them, and there's we got close-ups of their faces when they're like screaming and crying, which is just so fucked up. And then he starts
hard to watch.
Yeah, then he starts beating on Arya, and she's taking it like a champ, man. Like she is.
And the girls look
reacting.
over at her, and they're like, "What?"
Yeah, she's absorbing blows like a true G, and he's just whipping her, and the other girls are like, "Oh my god, like this is crazy." And luckily, Meryn sends the other 2 girls away. You 2 out. So thankfully, Arya basically saved these girls from more torment by catching his eye, essentially.
Yeah, definitely.
So he like punches her in the gut, and like she has like the Samwell Tarly moment from a couple episodes ago when he stops Gilly's rape, when he's like down on the ground and he slowly stands back up, and so Arya does that same thing here. She like slowly gets back up, and Meryn's like, what the fuck is going on here? But as she's getting up, she reaches up and starts messing with her face, and Meryn's like, what the fuck is she doing? And she jumps up and she like looks up quickly, and it's Arya, and he's like, oh god, it's that girl. And she pulls out a dagger and jams it right in his eye. So hardcore. And he's just like, oh my god, what the fuck? And then she jams his other eye out, and he's just like screaming, and he tries to grab her, and she stabs him like 5 times in the chest, like Jon Snow style, and cuts her around the back behind him, and like is holding on to him. And
you were the first person on my list,
Yeah, and he's like, what the fuck?
For killing Syrio Forel, remember him? And I love it that she kills Sir Meryn Trant in Bravos as revenge for her Bravosi water dancer.
Yeah, for sort of the Sea Lord of Bravos. Yeah, it's the best. And she has another funny line. I've gotten a few of the others, but the many-faced god stole a few more from me. I'm glad he left me you. Do you know who I am? And she's got like her Heisenberg moment here.
I can't hear you.
I can't hear you. Stabs him and again. You know who I am. Arya Stark, say it. Heisenberg.
Yeah, say my name.
Say my name. Love that. And a look of surprise, flashes across Meryn's face, kind of. And she pulls out his gag, and she's like, you know who you are? And he's just like, and it's like that sort of Cersei thing again here, where she's so despicable that you like seeing her like flailing and down, kind of. I think that's what they were going for with this scene too, where Meryn's just been so awful the whole time that you're like, yeah, finally, but it's just so brutal at the same time.
It carries on a little long.
Yeah, it's like it exceeds the point of where you're enjoying the revenge to the point where it's like, ooh, this is a little
becoming
much,
a little like
Tarantino.
Yeah,
kind
totally
of
Tarantino style. Same thing with the way with Cersei. Like you're like, yeah, she's naked and revenge, and then you're like, ooh, I don't want to be looking at these boobs, that type of thing.
Boobs.
Same thing here. Like, yeah, Arya's gonna get revenge on Meryn, and then you're like, oh god, like this is really fucked up. So she's like, you know who you are, and he's like, oh. And she says, you're no one, you're nothing. And I thought that was interesting use of the words no one.
Yeah.
It's sort of like sacrilegious to the many-faced god to call this person that you like are reviled by no one,
It's because she doesn't care about the many-faced god.
Exactly.
She never has. I mean, it's always, I think she cared more about, this scene, this episode really shows it. It was just more about, him being rescued and when he was in that cage, and her having attachment to something in the wake of her loss of her father, just like she had to the Hound.
Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't say she doesn't care about the many-faced god. She doesn't care about becoming no one, for sure.
Right.
But I would say she does worship the god of death.
Yeah, but I think she sees it more as a tool than like a religious thing.
Right.
This is what I need to get what I
it's a means
need to
to an
do
end
for my revenge. Yeah.
The no one process. Yeah, definitely.
Right. It's like people that use religion to get what they want, I think more. Not that they don't believe in it, but they still don't mind using it as a tool for their own gain.
Definitely. Then she fucking slowly slits his throat, like sort of like the way Catelyn got her throat slit at the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
Just like right across and...
Very intense.
Yeah, and he just like drops.
And she just stands there like, ha.
Yeah, exactly. So then she's creeping back into the House of Black and White, like you were saying, Johnny, sneaking home up the stairs after she got drunk. And, like you're sneaking back into your house in high school or something.
Yeah.
And the door latch like squeaks too much, and Mom like opens up, turns on the hallway light.
Where have you been?
Yeah, right. As she's putting the mask on.
I've been
up
all night waiting for you.
Yeah.
Couldn't you have texted me or called me?
Exactly. A girl has taken a life, the wrong life. Creeping in the darkness is so fucking creepy. And they grab her and they're like, that life wasn't yours to take. Now you owe the many-faced god a debt. You stole from him, basically. And Jaqen holds up, the waif's holding her mouth, and it looks like they're going to dump the vial in her mouth. And instead, Jaqen drinks it himself and falls over dead immediately. And she's, he's like, only death can pay for life. And Arya thinks she's going to die. But then, no, it's Jaqen who falls to the ground dead. And Arya freaks out, like, no,
she's like, don't die.
Attachment disorder.
Yeah, yeah. And the waif is like, why are you crying? Like, what?
He was my friend.
No, like, haven't you been listening to anything? He was no one. And all of a sudden, the waif is Jaqen. And Arya's like, what the fuck? And she turns around and Jaqen's standing there, and then Jaqen's dead on the ground. So there's two of the face simultaneously. So it's not like these are just faces that they cut off and then like wear like masks. The fact that we see two Jaqens at this moment is like a hint that there's something magical happening.
Oh, totally.
So Arya's like, what the fuck? And reaches down and starts trying to pull off, or she's like, what the fuck? Like, but if you're Jaqen, and who's that? And he's like, no one at all. Like just as a girl should have been before she took a face from the hall.
He looks really funny in the waif's dress too, by the way.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, it's like a little too small. And so Arya starts pulling faces off from this body one by one, and it's so trippy. And just like the special effects are so cool here. I'd love to know how they did it.
Definitely.
And eventually she pulls it off. And, and Jaqen is talking in the background. The faces are for no one. As she's pulling him off. You are still someone. And she pulls off another one. And to someone, the faces are as good as poison. And she pulls off one last face to reveal herself. And she's like, oh my God. And obviously there's more magic happening here because her face never got cut off. No,
and Jaqen's still alive too. And we see his face.
Yeah.
Yep.
Although in the books, when the first time she takes another face, there's some type of medical procedure that happens.
Oh.
Yep.
I also want to note too, before we get too far away from Sir Meryn's death, is the girl that she borrows the face.
Yeah.
The girl that's the little girl that she poisoned in the House of Black and White. The
terminally ill girl from earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
Her first House of Black and White kill.
Yeah, so I forgot to make that note while we were there.
Nice. Good catch. I remember you pointed that out when we were covering that episode too. I hadn't realized it. It's killer. So I thought that this was interesting. The faces are as good as poison to someone. And then she starts going blind, and it seems like it's like a side effect from having worn one of these faces. That's the implication. Is that
without being a many-face,
right. If you're
faceless
not,
man?
Yeah, if you're not no one, the faces are poisonous, basically. So she's like suffering a physical repercussion from doing this. So this made me think, this is tinfoil area, and I'm going to say right off the bat, it's probably not the case on the show. But remember, the Arya gets stabbed in the gut, and then we think she kills the waif. when after that whole Terminator 2 chase sequence.
Yeah.
And, when the waif T-1000 is like chasing after her. And, and she tricks her in the dark room. She cuts out the candle and then potentially kills the waif. We see her go back to Jaqen and she's like, I'm Arya Stark and I'm going home or whatever, like you said. And Jaqen's like, yeah, cool. That's fine. So the next time we see her is when she kills Walder Frey. So I'm wondering if she's not no one, and she's someone, she's Arya Stark when she kills Walder Frey. Did she suffer from more physical side effects afterwards? Like, did she go blind again for, temporarily? If not, it may indicate that Arya is not actually Arya, that it could be the waif impersonating Arya, for instance, or something like that.
Oh my goodness.
But I think we talked about this, I thought maybe last time I was on, about the waif possibly being a Frey.
Oh.
Like that being the house that she was, because the house that she kind of describes to Arya earlier on when she first gets the house in black and white, like...
Right. Then was I lying? Was any of that true?
Right, exactly. Like which again, it could have all been a lie, but it seemed like she described like House Frey perfectly. And right.
And the animosity like she feels towards Arya is like, resembles the way Frey's feel towards Starks.
Correct. And her physical features are in line
very
a lot
Frey,
with all those girls that are lined up
very
in front
plain.
of Robb.
Yeah. And if that was the case and she harbors resentment towards Arya for being a Stark because she's a Frey, then she's no better than Arya. She's still someone as well.
And she's still someone. Correct. Yeah, totally.
But by that token, I can't see her crawling back to the twins to slit her great-grandfather or grand-uncle or someone's throat. That was true Arya revenge.
And that, exactly. And everything like running into Nymeria and still like,
right.
It's Arya.
Nymeria would have just straight up ripped her fake face off.
Yeah, exactly. So like I was saying, before I went into that theory, I was like, it's not true, but I thought it was interesting. It could be like a slip up that they didn't.
There's a bunch of merit behind like that, or online. Like a lot of people don't believe that Arya is Arya.
Right, yeah, it's
so pretty, I can see, and at least that, like the way you just explained it, gives it a lot more, justification than people just saying that the waif showed back up after her and Arya's showdown, because obviously where did her stomach wounds magically go?
Yeah, and if the faces are as good as poison for someone, then every time that Arya uses a face, she would have suffer afterwards from some type of ailment or something like that. Like she'd be, she'd have to deal with something.
That would have been so cool. Like when she came back with like the waif's face, if she would just kind of limped in towards that pool and took a drink from it and then lived. And like, it's like the mini-face god healed her stomach wounds or something like that.
Yeah, that would be cool. Like for no one. It's like the faces are poisonous for someone, like the pool is poisonous for someone, but for no one, it heals you.
It heals you.
But it just seems that if she was going to, like, if they would have just given the viewers some sort of like something like that, that would have just been so awesome to like dispel all these almost Star Wars like analytical people. Like, there's no way that many gut wound. The way she, gets
that
all
knife
gutted by her.
3.5 inches into her sternum, and she would need internal stitches at 4 different levels.
Right, and even if the actress did do all that, that run from Terminator waif alone ruptured all that work back open. How does she make it all the way back to the House of Black and White? And then survive all the way? So because she is standing pretty like. Erect and comfortable after that fight when she tells Jaqen what the deal is, who she is, and all that. So
it's hilarious.
I just think that a quick little freaking side scene of her like having like that fucking bloody hog chow of a face of like the waifs in her hand and her just like dipping her fingers in the pool, that would have been like fucking epic.
So epic, yeah, that would have been really cool. Great idea.
I like it.
Just do a director's cut or some kind of bonus scene.
Johnny Stitches cut. So Jaqen dies, and then Arya all of a sudden can't see, and we're left wondering, like, what the fuck happened there for a while. But we know.
Oh, yeah, we know.
And there's the blind stuff.
It is known.
Yeah, it is known. There's other really cool elements of that story that are in the books that aren't in the show. Things about her being blind. So I highly recommend reading the books because there's so many cool details. And we're not going to spoil those ones. Like really, really epic details.
I will say, though, not to discourage anybody from reading the books, obviously, never would want to do that. I think that the show did do an amazing job of making the whole black and white arc, to me, more interesting than the novels.
Really?
Like, as far
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, we talked about, without getting too deep into it, like the medical practice, like the surgical practice and all that stuff that's in the book. And I just like this mystic fucking magical element that the show seems to, it links more up with Melisandre and the whole idea of the many-faced god, and the god of death and, the red god and all that kind of thing.
Good call.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit more put together by, Benioff and Weiss than I think, George R. R. Martin and again, it's not that it's bad in the book. I know, whatever. Come at me. But,
come at me, Crow.
It's not everything. I'm not saying the series is like that. I just,
of course,
but that being said, I've watched the series now, including this episode 3 times. This episode 3 times, done a binge of the whole series once, and then watched it all live. I've only binged the novels once. Man. I might re-listen to the novels, and now I'll have the way the House of Black and White looks in my head from the show when I'm reading the book and think, oh, wow.
Yeah, totally.
So
that's going to happen.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's going to be sweet.
All right. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Down to Dorne, perhaps?
Sure. Let's take a donkey to Dorne.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're at the dock, and Prince Doran to Jaime is saying, I'm wishing you a safe journey home, and notions to Ellaria to say farewell. And Ellaria says, forgive me, child. I wish you all the happiness in the world.
Oh, it's so fucked up.
And kisses her. And she holds the kiss a little too long.
Yeah.
And then she nods to Jaime. And Jaime helps Marcella into the boat. And it's like, as a first-time viewer, I did happen to notice her lipstick being dark.
Ooh.
But I, didn't think anything of it. Because I just figured she was in, a darker dress, that they were just changing up her look a little bit. And I have to comment on Marcella's dress again. I love the Dornish dresses.
Oh yeah, all the sand snakes have really cool dresses in this scene too. Like their outfits are sheer and just really cool.
Yeah, and they're backless and they hang just on the shoulder, like they're just about to fall off.
They
but they
felt
don't.
pretty true to the descriptions in the books, I will say.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
with the big billowy sleeves and the trains and the it's like an epic beach dress because it's sheer and it's meant to be in warm climates. And so, Bronn and Tyene have their little, you want the bad pussy.
Yeah, people widely regard that as the single worst line in the show.
Yeah, I have to agree.
It's like, there's that scene in Batman Returns when the Penguin walks into Catwoman on the bed and he's like, just the pussy I've been looking for, or something like that. I remember seeing that as a little kid.
That's hilarious.
And not getting it at all. I think I was 6 when that came out. And then rewatching it again as a teenager and it completely clicked. And then I was watching it the other day with my son. He's never seen it. I completely forgot about it. And that line just hits. And I'm like, oh.
Oh my God.
Oopsie.
Really? But yeah, it was a trip. But I thought the same thing during the rewatch. The that bad pussy. I'm like, really? Is this turning into like a softcore porn? What the fuck?
Because that's another thing that's like not in the books. People were like, oh my God, like what did you just do to the sand snakes?
You just HBO-fied my show.
Yeah.
Oh wait, it's on HBO. What did you expect?
Exactly. That's hilarious.
So they exchange, and then Jaime leans over and he's like, whenever you're ready, my lord, like, let's get going here.
With Bronn and Tyene, though, like it's kind of funny because Bronn suggests, he throws it out there first. He's like, maybe I'll come visit you sometime. You poisoned me, but
he likes her.
Cool.
He likes what he sees.
Yeah, it's so funny, man.
So we talked a lot about Jaime and Marcella. So I don't think I have any more notes on that scene. Do you guys?
No, I don't have any more notes at all.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing really for me either, I don't think.
I mean, the only other thing I wanted to add was it's so, like, we see Marcella die and then it cuts to Ilaria staring at the ship, and then her blood starts to trickle out of her nose, and it's like, oh my God, it was the lipstick.
Yep.
It's like, why did you wait that long to take the antidote?
Maybe she was just like, she wanted to know right when it happened, and so she waited.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it seems like a waste though. Like, why would you let the poison take such effect where like blood vessels are rupturing inside of your head?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, you might want to take the antidote before that part.
I cannot wait to see what they do with her in episode 8. Like, this scene made me want to see justice.
In season 8?
Even at the hands of Cersei. Like, last time we saw these two, they're in a dungeon, the daughter and the mother, and that's it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's right. Oh, man.
Tyene got kissed by Cersei, and Ilaria is chained up to watch her daughter die and decompose.
Right.
Oh, Bronn's gonna be so pissed.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to settle for a good girl.
So what do you have next for notes?
Oh man, one of the fucking coolest scenes. Varys revealing himself to Tyrion.
Yes.
Love this.
This is my next note too.
With Dany gone, he feels safe enough to come out of the shadows.
Yes, I noted that too. Dany's out of there, so Varys magically appears.
Yeah, Tyrion's chilling, and all of a sudden, hello, old friend. Varys just slinks out. And Tyrion doesn't even look. He's just like, what does he say to him?
I suppose there's no point in asking how you found me.
Right, and Varys is like, I thought we were so happy together until you abandoned me. And he doesn't realize that he was necessarily captured, which is kind of funny. He's just like, what the fuck, man? We were having a good time, He just dipped on me.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny.
He's like, little birds sing in the west, little birds sing in the east, if one knows how to listen.
Yeah, and they tell me you've already found favor with the mother of dragons. Like you're
well, she didn't cut my head off, so yeah.
It's a promising start.
Now the heroes are off to find her, and I'm stuck here trying to placate a city on the brink of civil war.
Yeah. Oh man, and Varys couldn't have showed up at a better time. And also, Varys is always talking up Tyrion, like boosting his confidence and helping him to reach his potential. Because Varys sees all this potential, but he also sees Tyrion as his more brooding qualities, like wanting to drink himself to death, etc., not being super into things at this point. So he needs this confidence boost and this ego boost that Varys has provided in the past to get him back in the mind state, basically, to be able to tackle this situation. Like you were saying, he's telling him, the city's on the brink of civil war. I've got to placate the whole thing, and he's like, oh, a grand old city choking on violence, corruption, and deceit. Who could possibly have any experience managing such a massive, ungainly beast? Like, Tyrion, you've done this before. Yeah,
I did miss you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he has another good point. Information is key. You need to learn your enemy's strengths and strategies. You need to learn which of your friends are not your friends. And Tyrion has a funny response. If only I knew someone with a vast network of spies.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Walking down the path, stroking each other.
Yeah, totally. And Varys has a good point, though. It's all about information. Information warfare is the next, great battlefront.
Definitely.
Sure. Information, knowledge is power. It's pretty killer. So I thought this was the next line, like you're walking down the path, stroking each other. He said, this is so funny. Tyrion says, I did miss you. And Varys says, oh, I know. And what did that remind you of, Johnny? That must have reminded you of
Star
something.
Wars, yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened. So totally a play on the famous Leia and Han thing, where as Han Solo is being lowered into the carbonite bath, Leia is like, can't stand it. And she's just like, oh, I love you. I know.
And that was an improv line. That's the beauty of that whole thing.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, it wasn't scripted. It was it was originally supposed to be, I love you, and of course I love you. And then Harrison Ford improv'd it, and they were so nervous about it that George Lucas screened it in front of a few audiences, like testing it before they put it into the final cut.
Oh, man.
Wow.
That was like one of the best directorial decisions they made to use it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because that is a classic line.
And then they do it again in Solo. Lando at the end of Solo is like, I hate you. And he's like, I know.
I got to see that still.
Oh, so good.
So yeah, great Star Wars reference. We got a couple in this episode. The Darth Vader moment with Theon throwing the Emperor Miranda down the shaft off the walkway there.
Yeah, that's true.
And then the great Leia and Han with Tyrion and Varys. Whoever wrote this episode was a Star Wars fan for sure.
Definitely, yeah.
Because these are both
channeling their inner Star Wars.
Absolutely, because these are both also two non-book moments. So these are purely show creations, obviously influenced by Star Wars, which are awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
So what do you have next, Rachel?
I have the beautiful countryside with Dany and Drogon.
Yeah, he's in pretty rough shape, huh?
He's in real rough shape.
Poor Drogon.
And Dany's kind of in rough shape too. That crisp white dress is not crisp anymore. It is tarnished.
At least she's still got all of her hair, though.
She's like, dude, we have to get out of here. Like, we're up on a freaking mountaintop. You have goat bones all around you.
Yeah, he's obviously chilled here before. This is like his little his fortress of solitude,
little spot. And he's like licking his wounds, and she's like, I'm so sorry, my sweet thing. Does it hurt?
Mm-hmm.
Drogon, can you take me back to Meereen?
I like this too, because Tyrion said the dragon flew north from Meereen, and north of Meereen is the Dothraki Sea. So if you know your Essos geography, it's kind of like a tip-off that you may be interacting with some Dothraki coming up here.
Oh, interesting. So he's still licking his wounds, and Drogon, we need to return. My people need me.
Yeah, can you take me back? He's like, no, Mom, I'm sore.
I'm sore. I'm
so
hurting.
tired.
I have holes in my wings and puncture wounds all over my body. And she's like, well, at the very least, you could hunt some supper.
Yeah.
And Dany begins walking, down below. Looks like she climbed down there pretty quickly.
Who was it? The dragon that got grounded during the Dance of Dragons and ended up eating Rhaenyra alive? Yeah, it was Sunfire. He ended up having a wing half torn off of his body and landed near Dragonstone, and Aegon II fed him Rhaenyra.
Oh, interesting. I don't know much about that story.
Cool history stuff.
So Dany's walking around and she hears something in the distance, and up over the ridge comes a lone rider.
And then she turns the other direction, and it's like she knows she's surrounded.
Yeah, 3 more Dothraki men arrive on horseback, And immediately Dany drops her ring.
And was that slick to do and like realistically? Because what are the odds anybody's ever going to find that?
That's what I said is what are the odds?
Completely with you guys on that one.
Kind of an unlikely breadcrumb.
Yes.
Here's the thing though, is the show got a little clever with it. Because the way the Dothraki circled around her created like rivets in the grass. So she was exactly that, Duncan, a bullseye. And so if and when Jorah and Dario approached, which they do, because it's quite a large circle.
Yeah, as long as they have a vantage point to be able to see it. If you're on ground level, you wouldn't know it's a circle. You need to be like up in the air to some degree. So if they came over like a crest of a hillside,
like a ridge.
Yeah.
So, I mean, far-fetched, yes, but the show, I think, did the best they could as far as elaborating enough to make it slightly realistic.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens in the books. I can't remember. I know that this is where we are, I think, in the books, too, with her.
The last we see is they approach, basically, and she is faced with... we don't even get the specifics at this point. A call rides up.
Yeah, she does. She says though that it's only like a few hundred, where in the show you can tell it's like thousands.
So basically, they just surround her, and they, they're doing their Dothraki call.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's not a good situation for Dany to be in.
Definitely not.
What's good though is she knows the culture very well. And
yeah, that's true.
She knows what to expect. She knows where they're going. You know what I mean? They're going to go back to the
Dosh Colleen.
Yeah, they're going to find out that she's the wife of a Khal, and they're going to take her back to the Dosh Colleen.
Yep.
So yeah, what's your next note?
It was relating to Cersei and that whole thing. I think we pretty much covered most of that, though. There's just one part where he was like, the High Sparrow's like, "You want to make a confession?" And she's like, "Once I've confessed, will I be free?" And it's obviously she's just like trying to see what she can get away with.
Yeah.
It's just the only thing I think I didn't mention before. Oh, there's one part too where she starts to like, because she's like acting, she's just doing whatever she needs to do to get out of there. And the High Sparrow's like, "You had a husband," and she's like, "A husband of whoring every chance he got," and like starts to slip out of her character, and she like has to like collect herself and go along with what she's trying to do again.
I like how she still denies too that.
Oh yeah,
her kids are Robert's for sure. She goes, a lie from the lips of Stannis Baratheon.
Yep.
He wants the throne, but his brother's children stand in the way, so he claims they're not his brothers.
Yeah, I deny it. Solid denial, pretty convincing. Sound logic, but she's also had plenty of time to prepare that one and practice it, and she's probably told it a million times.
Yeah.
Lied so long it's like become the truth in her mind, kind of thing,
Yeah, that's all I really have on Cersei left too.
And we just find out that there's also going to be a trial. Which is pretty
after her walk of atonement.
I choose violence.
When is that? Oh, right. That's when they're squaring off and she's got the mountain behind her and everything.
There will be violence.
If you do, yeah.
She says it to Lancel.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. And that's when the sparrows attack Gregor, Frank and Gregor, and they have that 4-pointed hammer thing and they smash it in his chest. And it just gets
stuck in his chest plate.
And rips that guy's head in half.
Oh, such a good scene.
Yeah. It's the best.
Well, the next note that I have is back up at Castle Black when Melisandre returns.
Yep, same here. Oh man, Davos is trying to convince Jon to give them the supplies, right?
Yeah, and Jon's like, "We don't have enough men to make any difference at all."
And then they're interrupted by Melisandre, like the gate opening.
Yeah, and Melisandre just looks beat. And they rush over to her, and she just has a look of just pain and angst and
like
defeat.
Her whole world just collapsed. Everything she thought she knew.
And Jon goes, Stannis, and she has no response. And Davos is like, Shireen, the princess. And she gives this horrid look to him like, no.
Yeah.
And Davos's face was so sad.
Yeah, and he must have so many questions, and she just like brushes past.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like, hold the fuck up, you know? Like,
yeah, like, time out. What the fuck happened?
Yeah. Oh, man. So crazy.
That was it for my notes.
Yeah, I think that may be it for mine as well.
Cool.
Yep, that's it. Got anything else you want to mention, Johnny?
No, I think that basically wraps up the episode for me.
All right, so stick with us, guys. We'll be right back after a short break. That's Expression by Pold. Check him out at soundcloud.com/pold-music. And we're back with news about Game of Thrones. The big piece of news that we have right now is that the air date for season 8 has been released, April 14th.
Thank God.
It's my mom's birthday.
Oh, yeah? I'm just going to gloat for a couple seconds and say that we've had our countdown timer on gameofmicrophones.com set to April 14th for like, I don't know, a month and a half.
Yes.
So
that's awesome.
We predicted that date.
It was foretold.
Yeah, it is known.
It is known.
So, along with the air date, we also got a teaser trailer, and I'm pretty sure that all three of us have watched it.
I watched it. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, but it doesn't really spoil anything. It's
I don't know.
So for anybody out there who hasn't seen it yet, because we normally don't talk about trailers, just skip ahead 7 minutes.
Yeah, it's a lot like that table chess scene from like the first teaser where it's very like that scene that's in the one that we just saw. I doubt that's going to be in any episode. It's just a bunch of ambiguous hints. It's promo.
Yeah, it was all audio from previous seasons and stuff.
Bran's not in the crypt.
Bran's bringing the ice.
Yep, that's what I thought too. Bran is the Night King. He's the ice.
Oh man,
he's down there. He's just the ice creeping up on him.
The funny thing about it is that they're down in the crypt, and Jon is like having like these auditory hallucinations from they all are of these dead people, like hauntings in the crypt, right? And I didn't know that. I had heard that there was a trailer. I was like, oh God, I don't want to hear anything about it. And I did a search. Rachel, remember how we were talking about how long the journey is from Castle Black to Winterfell, vice versa?
Yeah.
I tried to search there was this great website, A Search of Ice and Fire, which searches through all the book texts. You can like specify which texts you want to search and type like a phrase or a word combination and see what comes up.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome to play around with if you're like trying to figure out, like that's how I got a lot of quotes for Still Smug and stuff like that. But I was trying to find in book 1 where they're talking about traveling from when Tyrion and Jon are going to the wall, and we had speculated that they had given a time frame for how long the journey took. So I was trying to figure that out, and what did come up was a quote from Jon 7, I think, in A Game of Thrones, where he's talking to like his inner monologue. He's thinking about these nightmares that he's been having about hauntings in the Winterfell crypt. And then like waking up and and thinking like, I'm a man of the Night's Watch, I got to be strong and I can't like think about this. But he's like, dead people are like, his relatives are like coming out from their crypts, their graves in the crypt and everything. So I thought it was just cool, and I posted it on Facebook with a couple pictures, like one of the crypts and one of Jon Snow, and a couple people messaged me and they were like, whoa, like like, that was a really good quote to post. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks. And they were like, they brought it up in relation to the teaser trailer. And I was like, what? Like, so they thought I had seen the trailer and then thought that was an appropriate quote to post because it was like, you know, kind of referencing like the ghost voices and stuff from the teaser trailer, but it was just a total coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost argue that this thing was more of, again, just like a hype promo than an actual trailer.
Yeah, hype promo, totally.
The thing that pissed me off, which I'm not going to talk about any of the, but there's an 18-second actual piece of the episode in a HBO promotion for their 2019 shows that are going to be releasing.
So little bits of all these shows, but they
True
throw
Detective
in...
and everything. And they just creep it in there. So I saw that and I was like, well, awesome. I didn't want to see that.
Right, that's fucked up.
And it's a key scene. That's just crazy.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Like just a little key exchange of dialogue. So if anybody hasn't watched it, and what's crazy is my wife and I, we watched True Detective, the third season that aired on Sunday.
Nice.
And it airs like right before it. So it's like shows on HBO 2019, like they're doing their little, you know, there's no announcer, obviously. I just did that, but like the text is the text is popping up saying,
Sunday,
HBO, you know, True Detective, Game of Thrones, like throwing all these things out there. And then they show like these little pieces of each of the shows.
Right.
And then one of them shows said character we all know walking up to other said character we all know with another said character we all know. And they just exchange some dialogue. And I'm like, hey,
I love the way you just described that.
This is going to happen in maybe hopefully the first minute of the freaking premiere. If not, this sucks. If this is like a piece of like episode 4 or 2 or something.
So funny.
But I guess they probably thought, well, there's not much, but I've already seen like on YouTube channels taking that 18 seconds and like circling certain pieces of like costumes and be like, could this be this? Does this mean that? Does this, you know, it's like, oh, Jesus. Here we go.
Yeah, there was like 20-minute videos about 18 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah, like literally.
But the trailer one, I mean, I think that one, again, all the dialogue is from episodes past.
Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing in it that's spoiler. It was like, I mean, it's got like this ambiguous foreshadowing that
it's really it would have made sense in season 1,
right?
You know,
exactly.
Like, yeah. It was really cool though. I thought it was very like artfully done. The statues of themselves.
Definitely.
Yeah, like I said, it reminded me a lot of that first trailer we got where it's the ice and the fire rushing at each other on the table.
Purely conceptual.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, like you said,
I loved that
promo. It's just getting hype up and like saying like we're going to be back, but not like actually showing you anything or giving you any hints about what's going on.
I'd rather have that than an actual trailer of a bunch of scenes spliced together.
I'm thinking that this year they may like not actually release a trailer.
Well, with
they may just do the hype promos, with like leak worries and stuff like that.
Exactly.
That would be so cool if they didn't do that.
A trailer that shows actual pieces of scenes might give somebody that has got leaked stuff like, oh, this is in it. Validity. Look, they just showed it in the trailer.
Yeah, like, this
so go ahead and release this.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping that they don't do any like real trailers this year. How cool would that be?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
I'd be cool with that because I can't not watch them. I tried not to watch the one that they just released, and I was like a kid in a candy store. I was like, I can't do it. I gotta watch it. Oh my god, no!
I only watched it when I was fully convinced that there was like no real spoiler stuff in it, and because I knew both of you guys watched it and we could talk about it on the show.
Yeah,
nice. Cool.
Yeah. So anything else you guys want to add about that?
No.
It's April 14th is my mom's birthday, so it's going to come out on her birthday.
Oh, one of our listeners told me a story about how, like, a few minutes after the announcement of the time came out, or of the date, like maybe like half an hour later, she got a text from somebody in her PTA or Parent Teacher Association who was saying that there was an important meeting on that day.
And that, trolling.
Yeah,
that's
just trolling her.
That's funny.
She was like, awesome. I bought it too. You'll know better next time, Princess Sarah. Yeah, hilarious. All right, moving on to Game of Thrones and history. Again from Bustle. 11 times Game of Thrones was inspired by true stories from history by Charlotte Allen.
William the Conqueror. In actual English history, William the Conqueror was a bastard Duke of Normandy who wanted to rule over all 7 kingdoms of England. In 1066, he crossed the narrow sea with one hell of an army and started running the place. The current Queen of England is his 22 times great-granddaughter. In A Song of Ice and Fire, it's the same story, except with Aegon the Conqueror and his sister wives and their dragons taking over Westeros and establishing the Targaryen dynasty.
Damn, 7 kingdoms of England, 7 kingdoms of Westeros. That's wild.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Richard III. Richard III is a divisive historical figure. On one hand, he stands accused of murdering his own nephews to secure his spot on the English throne.
Damn.
But on the other hand, there's a good chance that Richard III was actually framed for murdering his nephews with pigeon pie. and in that reality, he was just a small, witty, slightly hunchbacked guy who was made out to be some kind of monster by his relatives. I'm sure that Tyrion can relate.
Yeah, that's so funny too, man. Twisted monkey demon.
Yeah.
The Little Ice Age. The seasons of Westeros are definitely different from the seasons of Earth, but there actually was a medieval warm period followed by the Little Ice Age from approximately the 14th century through the mid-19th century. The climate shift wasn't as dramatic as in Martin's fiction, but the drop in temperatures did affect civilization in Europe and the North Atlantic region. Advancing glaciers obliterated farms and churches, and crops failed due to colder, wetter summers leading to famine. So, the idea of a winter that lasts a generation is really not so fantastical. Martin just added the zombies.
Nice.
A little known fact about this Little Ice Age is that it was also really big in helping destroy a lot of what was left over from the Black Death throughout.
Oh, interesting.
Because the cold naturally, as
kills
winter
the virus.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So
that's cool.
That's
cool.
the positive side of that.
Good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've done a lot of research on the 3 major points that from when the Black Death started to when it spiked to its massive spikes for Sirenicide research stuff.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
Killer.
Nice.
Did you hear that?
Caw! Caw! Caw!
Sir Matthew of House Repp. Meryn Trant gets what's coming to him. The real question is, did he always have these predilections towards beating young girls, or is this a taste he acquires after Joffrey made him punish Sansa?
Ooh.
I love how
Good
Arya
question.
goes straight for his eyes, blinding him before death, foreshadowing her own subsequent blinding. Yeah, and that is a good question about Meryn. I think he was probably perverted before that.
I do too.
Yeah,
I think that's why he could beat Sansa.
Yeah, if maybe if you were made to do something like that in early childhood, it would be more likely to cause these type of fixation on it or something like that. But being fully an adult and being made to do something like that, I don't think it would have that deep of an effect on your psychology. You'd probably just be pissed off that you had to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
As much as I hate Ollie, I really tried to look at things from his perspective this time around. Not only did Jon not punish the wildling that personally led the attack that had his whole entire village killed, but he's going to turn around and give that land that his people have worked for generations to the very people that murdered him or them. I'd be pissed off too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
It's pretty fucked up from Ollie's perspective.
Yeah. Poor Ollie and his little Hamlet.
Little Hamlet. Lady Sarah of House Larkham writes, This episode set foreshadows a lot of things. Number 1, Ilaria poisoning Marcella. Flash forward to season 7, episode 3, when Cersei does the same thing to Ilaria's daughter and makes Ilaria watch. 2, Cersei gets revenge on the High Sparrow and Septa Yanella and her enemies by blowing up the Septa Baelor with them in it. Number 3, Brienne killing Stannis foreshadows Brienne getting her confidence back so she can serve Sansa as the best person that she is.
Yeah, definitely. Good points.
Awesome. Thanks for writing in.
All right. Lady Lucy of House Jane. Very carefully. Gets me every time.
How did you do it after you just almost got beat to death?
Very carefully.
oh my.
Oh my. Although I adore Brienne, she is wrong about Renly being the rightful king. But I forgive her. I really love the sound Miranda makes as she falls to the ground. The perfect end to an evil wench.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I find it interesting that Arya's favorite method of killing is slitting throats, which is how Cat died. Payback to the world, maybe?
Possibly.
Yeah, because she gets Walder like that too, doesn't she? Slits his
She gets
throat
a few people like that.
from behind. Damn.
What does she do to Littlefinger?
She slits his throat.
Yeah, there we go.
Damn.
Yeah, that's her thing, man. And she didn't even see it.
Right.
Oh, man.
I think she probably heard about it, though.
Probably, yeah. Why doesn't Jaime turn the boat around? He knows that the Prince of Dorne didn't do this. I don't get it. I think in that moment, personally, that if they've gone through that length to the Sand Stakes to kill, I just think by the time that he would get off back to that dock or anything like that, it would be over. Like, I mean, at that point, they already have their plan in motion.
Yeah.
I'm sure they probably had some kind of contingency that if this boat starts turning around, we need to do this, this, and this, remember?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he probably at that point realized, oh shit, we just need to get out of here.
Oh, man, what a fucked up scenario. I would be really tempted to turn back, though. Like, I would want to, try to cut their heads off. I'd be like, Bron, we need to kill these bitches. I know you want the bad pussy, but you're gonna fucking kill her instead.
I love that Varian are back together again.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's cute. While I hate the High Sparrow, I love that he won't take any of Cersei's bullshit and that he cuts her off straight away. While I don't have an ounce of sympathy for Cersei on her walk of shame, I would dearly love to shove Sister Anella bell up her arse. Because it's very annoying. Hear.
Ding, shame.
I can't bear the end scene. Ollie is a treacherous little shit.
Yes.
Agreed.
Treacherous little shit. Lord Mark of House Taylor. I used to play hockey with a guy named Mark Taylor. It's pretty funny.
Nice.
This is not the same one, I don't think, though. Hello, I have just watched seasons 1 to 7 within the last 2 weeks. I enjoy.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. Nice, dude. Glad you're enjoying it. I enjoy podcasts and enjoy listening to yours regarding Game of Thrones. I had a theory I wanted to share. Forgive me if it's been brought up before, but here it is. As he stepped into the shelter the man had built for him, he paused and looked back at Jon Snow. The boy stops near the fire, his face still and hard, looking deep into the flames. Tyrion Lannister smiled sadly and went to bed. Then, when episode 7 of season 7 ended, Tyrion was aware of Jon and his aunt in bed together. Perhaps he is aware of who Jon is. This could have been why he tried to speak to Daenerys earlier, but she did not want to talk about her succession. If it turns out that Tyrion is Jon Snow's uncle, then Jon traveled to the Night's Watch with both of his uncles going with him.
That's awesome. Nice.
That's hilarious.
Nice.
Thanks for writing.
Nice.
That's good.
Lord Mark, good to hear from you. All right, that's our show, episode 92. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
And a huge thanks to Archmaester Stitches from the Luminescent Citadel on the Siren Isle for joining us today. Seriously, dude, it was awesome having you here.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. It was a pleasure. Always.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back sometime soon for sure.
Definitely.
If you'd like to donate or subscribe to support us, you can go to paypal.me/GOMPodcast and patreon.com/GOMPodcast to donate an amount of your choosing. There are links to both at gameofmicrophones.com.
Doing some online shopping? Go to gameofmicrophones.com and click on our link to Amazon. As an Amazon associate, we earn from qualifying purchases.
Any contribution you make helps, and your help can secure the continued existence of GOM, Game of Microphones.
And make sure to also check out Sirenicide. It's Archmaester Stitches' serialized horror drama podcast revolving around a tale of terror and mystery unfolding in the fictional city of Morston, Texas.
Yeah, check it out at Sirenicide.com or Facebook.com/Sirenicide or any of your favorite podcast platforms. Just enter Sirenicide, SIRENICIDE.
We'd also like to thank our patrons, Sir Matthew of House Repp, Lady Lucy of House Roberts, Lady Candace of House Tews, Lord Jeff of House Allen, Sirenicide, and Luke the Low Duke. Thank you guys for your support and patronage.
Yes, thanks, guys. We love you.
Indeed.
We also want to give a huge thanks to Lady Lisa of House Sky, Pie Romancer. She's been key in behind the scenes working to get gameofmicrophones.com up and running. She is also a world-class artist, and she does amazing work. She did a great George R.R. Martin drawing and also a Rhaegar Targaryen drawing, and it was really, really amazing. She's awesome. You can check out her amazingly illustrated children's book, The People You May See, available now on Amazon.com. You can also check out all of her beautiful artwork at fineartsbylisa.com, Instagram.com/fineartsbylisa, and Facebook.com/fineartsbylisa.
And she'll be guest hosting on the next episode as well, so look forward to that.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
I'm so excited.
Next episode, we'll be covering Season 6, Episode 1, The Red Woman. Give it a watch and send us your thoughts. We'd love to read them on air. If you'd like to call, you can call us at 813-JOFFREY. That's 813-563-3739.
If you would like to write in, you can email us at ravens@gameofmicrophones.com.
Check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/GOMPodcast. While you're there, give us a rating and a review.
Indeed, mighty.
Love it. Imp slap. You can also listen to Game of Microphones on YouTube, BitChute, and Steemit.
We're also on Twitter, Instagram, Gab, and Minds at GOMPodcast.
We are on Tumblr too at Game of Microphones.
All right.
All right. That's our show, mates.
Thanks for listening.
For the watch.
For the watch.
For the watch. Ready for liftoff.
Oh my God, you are the dapper tonight, because that's funny because we always tell Justin how dapper he looks.
Where you guys are.
All right, I will start off. Good morrow, revenge-seeking rainbow guard and shame-walking queens.
Shame.
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 Showstrokers. Showstrokers.
Showstrokers, there you go.
Oh man.
Tight
Me too.
grip.
Shame.
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 Shame. Ring-a-ling-a-ling.
Confess. Confess.
Confess.
Shame. Shame.
Suck me off, you bitch.
Yeah. Hanging out with his wang out. I'm taking all these great quotes of you and putting them in the outtakes, like, suck me up, you bitch.
No,
How much for your little clam?
That one was so creepy. How much for your little clam?
Oh, God.
You're evil.
That's hilarious.
He's like, oh, I've been imagining that for a while.
Stannis.
Oh, the
The
menace.
menace.
Yeah.
You don't want to defend a child murderer, but Stannis.
Friend zone.
Yeah, sad for Jorah. Do you have rock climbing skills?
Have you ever tracked animals in the wilderness?
No, not exactly.
Are you good on a horse?
Middling.
So mainly you talk.
And drink. I've survived this far.
That makes it, again, not trying to condone, like you were saying, abuse against children or child murder, but yeah, I love it when he gets his unbecomings.
Hold on one second. Dave, don't lock me in. Okay. He locks me in the garage. The Boltons crushed the army and
true.
Brienne crushed his face.
Get to the chopper. It will take you to Essos for safety. We'll pretend you're dead over here. It will be okay.
To Essos.
Who said anything about dying?
Oh, no. You're not going to die.
Oh, it's going to be so much worse.
You're going to be fucking tortured.
Yeah.
Except for your lady bits. You're going to be fucking tortured.
I just stepped in Miranda.
It's so creepy. And she just plasters to the ground. It's nasty. So fucked up.
It's like a thud and a squeal combined. Oh. Ew, I don't want to be looking at these boobs.
Poop boobs.
Nymeria would have just straight up ripped her fake face off if that wouldn't have been.
Once I've confessed, will I be free?
Oh, God, really? Very carefully.
Oh my.
Oh, my.
I'd be like, Bron, we need to kill these bitches. I know you want the bad pussy, but you're gonna fucking kill her instead. It's Archmaester.
You can't do it now.
You can't wait. It's Archmaester Stitches serialized.
For the rewatch.
For the rewatch.